Hello, and welcome to episode 195 of the Gaming Fix podcast on October 23rd, 2021. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka The Wet Gamer, aka your partner's favorite Halloween monster. I'm joined today by Pat.
We I think we're kind of like we're like a eldritch horror kind of household, like In the Mouth of Madness, The Thing.
What is the most Halloweeny of the eldritch beings?
Oh, well, I mean, it's kind of like asking what the most Halloweeny ghost is. Like,
I mean, that's a bedsheet ghost. That's just,
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
Two holes.
It would probably have to be something like you can get into weird like the pumpkin dude from Trick or Treat. That's a great movie, by the way. If you've not seen the anthology film Trick or Treat, that is a great film. I would call that kind of like a little eldritch. He's like an eldritch being because he's not like necessarily a ghost.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it's probably pretty Halloweeny.
All right.
Love that guy.
And Alex.
Seagulls.
Seagulls?
Pretty horrific.
They're horrific when they shit on my car.
Oh, speaking of seagulls, have you guys heard of this Feeding Steven thing? It's out of TikTok. But there's a whole YouTube channel. It's this guy in the UK who started he saw this seagull that kept returning, like he's on a loft level apartment, and he kept seeing this one seagull landing near his roof, so he started feeding it and like basically getting it friendly, and he's been doing it for like 3 or 4 months, and now the seagull will like sit on his hand and he can pet it and stuff, and now it's had babies and the babies come and like get foods and stuff.
This is a crane wife situation.
But it's worth watching. Look it up. It's called Feeding Steven. It's funny. I watched like freaking 2 hours of it over the course of this week.
All right.
It takes a lot of time and effort to create 2 hours of TikTok videos.
Yeah. Right.
I use TikTok enough to know.
Oh, there's YouTube compilations that he made.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah. Sorry, Andre.
You still say that you watch all this and you still say seagulls are horrific monsters.
You should watch those videos. Those babies are fucking nightmares.
Okay.
They've become the unexpected villains in that series. It's really funny.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's usually crows that shit on my car too, not seagulls.
This is not where I thought this conversation was going to go when I
crows here randomly just start wars with other crows.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like once or twice a year there's just crow turf wars where there's literally like 50 to 100 crows sitting on buildings and wires and stuff just yelling at each other.
Oh yeah, it rules. I'm unironically is awesome. I think crows are fucking cool. There was this one time that I was like convinced that because they kicked their young out of the nest, right?
Yeah.
And there was this weird looking ball of like fluff and kind of like I was like, I don't know what this is. I thought it was some kind of dead animal sitting on the sidewalk on my way to work, and then it like turned its head like 180 degrees and looked at me. And I was like, oh, you're a little nightmare. And I was really worried that it was like it didn't make it, like it was like sitting on the ground because it was dying or something. But I looked it up and it was like, no, sometimes they just like they like kind of fall glide down from the nest and they can't quite fly, but they just have to sit and like chill for a little while. And that you absolutely should not touch them in that instance because they'll get like disowned if you touch them like other birds. And so I just like left him there, and then when I came back later he was gone. I was like, oh, okay, well,
something happened.
A decomposing crow sitting here, so so in some way, shape, or form the circle of life occurred. But I think the bird lived fine because there was no bones or anything around either.
Yeah. How about you, Andre? What's your favorite nightmare animal and or creature of the night come October?
Man.
Slash your partners.
Yeah. No. I like a slasher villain. A Michael Myers.
Groovy baby.
Not Mike Myers. Michael Myers.
Oh.
A Freddy Krueger. Like those kinds of. I'm a slasher fan. I would say, like, just the absurdity and over the top nature.
I love slasher movies where there's something like actually spooky happening.
Sure,
it's not just like murderer. Yeah. Like Psycho is good because Psycho is the original, but later on, I don't really like slasher movies that I like American Psycho too, but generally I don't really like slasher movies that don't have supernatural elements.
How about Final Destination, where the slasher is nature itself?
I have not watched Final Destination.
I don't like those movies very much, but
first one is pretty good. The second one is okay, and then it just kind of falls off from there.
I think I watched the first one and was like, it gave me enough anxiety about, and like now every time I'm
driving down the street or
I just don't enjoy the,
Sure.
I watched that movie at the exact wrong time. I watched it 2 nights before flying to France, where the opening scene of that movie is a plane flying to France that blows up in the fucking sky.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, not good. I don't like that.
Wow. Yeah,
I like to pretend those sorts of things cannot happen, and largely they can't because it is a movie.
Very, very rare.
In fact, so rare that I don't know.
Some of those things would, are.
I don't know that a commercial airliner has ever exploded spontaneously in midair. I don't really want to look it up, but I don't think it's happened.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Never say never. The real horrors are within this podcast.
It's I don't want to talk about, I'll forget about it by news, but very excited. My partner and I are very excited because there was and I know one friend of this podcast will be very excited because there is there was a thing on the Phasmophobia Steam page that is like, it showed like, it said October 25th, I want to say, and it showed a tent, which is
like very witchy.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm pulling up the blog post now. Oh no, I don't see it.
I fell asleep during the Blair Witch, so
anyway, but it's like
being in the woods. It can be spooky.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that it's a indication. I don't even know where she saw it because I don't see it now here, but showed it to me, and it's like it was like the name of the next update, and the teaser image was a tent. So it would be pretty cool if there was a campground map coming.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they had.
Or you got like a Friday, not Friday the 13th, or like a Blair Witch thing or something.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Do you know if they have mind goblins
in Phasmo?
Yeah.
No.
Damn. Well, because if they did, would you mind gobbling D's nuts?
I knew this is where we were going.
I would mind, actually.
Fair.
Color Out of Space is now on Netflix, so I need to get around to watching that.
Movie. But yeah, you do. Yeah. Good movie.
I'm not familiar with it, actually.
Nick Cage, some like meteorite crashes into his property, and wild shit happens.
This one.
It's based on a Lovecraft story.
Yeah. As soon as I saw the poster, I was like, "Oh, this right."
Probably my favorite Lovecraft story.
Okay.
It's pretty limited in the racism department, so that's good.
Limited.
That's a pro.
Well, it's Netflix, so it's probably.
Oh, the movie's fine. The movie doesn't have any.
I know.
The movie is totally sanitized any of that stuff, but the movie is a pretty direct adaptation of the story in a way that's
interesting.
Cool, but set in modern times.
So kind of like Romeo plus Juliet, but for the modern times.
Sure. Yeah, just like Romeo plus Juliet. If you like that movie, you should watch this one. Real disclaimer: Colorado Space is fucked up. So prepare thyself if you strap in for it. You'll be fine, Andre. But it's very good. But that was one of those movies where I was watching it and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
I still have to see Pig.
Good to know.
Yeah, I got
right.
as well.
Yeah.
I've heard that movie is hard to watch.
I've heard it's the same, but I've heard it's maybe Nick Cage's best movie. So
sure.
He's got a new movie out that he filmed in Japan in the prefecture where I live.
Well, of
and
course,
then
it's been another month, so.
Yeah, he met his wife apparently, and like she's from here, and like I don't know if he met her, and then because of her, he filmed a movie here. I guess he's buying a house here too. I don't know. Maybe I'll run into Nick Cage.
He's not buying a pyramid.
No. They're few and far between. If you see a pyramid here, it's probably a love hotel. Nick Cage could buy a love hotel.
I was gonna say I would not be surprised if Nick Cage bought a love hotel to live in.
Is this The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or The Old Way, or Butcher's Crossing?
Which of these three Nick Cage movies that came out this month?
There was also The Retirement Plan, Willy's Wonderland, Pig, and Prisoners of the Ghostland.
It's Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Okay.
That's the one. That's the one.
Apparently he was also in The Croods. I didn't know that.
Sure. I think I saw a poster for Prisoners of the Ghostland. Yeah, no, the Japanese poster just had, like, on the bottom left just says crazy.
That's Nick. Yeah.
The quote at the bottom of this poster is quote, "The wildest movie I've ever made," from Nicolas Cage.
I find that impossible to believe. I've seen Mandy, sir.
I need to see Mandy too. God.
Oh man, yeah, you should. Yeah, that's a. No,
I recently watched National Treasure, 1 and 2.
Colorado Space and Mandy, both better than National Treasure.
Hey, you know what?
By a margin. Wide margin. Mandy's better than Colorado Space. You should watch Mandy first.
Nope. So I should watch the better one first.
Yeah, I guess you should watch it whatever order you want. Colorado Space is scarier than Mandy. Mandy is disturbing, but it's not particularly scary.
I didn't realize that Nick Cage had played both Spider-Man and Superman the same year. Because he didn't. He was Superman in Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's a funny joke because the whole. He was going to play Superman
in like the Kevin Smith Superman movie.
No, it wasn't.
Or something.
It wasn't Kevin Smith. It was like Roland Emmerich or somebody like that, or Michael Bay or somebody.
I feel like if Allison was here, she would have this knowledge ingrained within her.
Oh no! Wait. Tim Burton was planned to direct it.
Yeah, but it was somebody else that wanted to cast him. I think.
Tim Burton.
Oh wait, no, wait. Yeah. Tim Burton was going to direct Superman Lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin Smith wrote it. Kevin Smith did the story outline.
Anyway, I just remember there was like in that movie there was like there's a documentary about it that I should watch at some point. There was this like. He was going to have like a giant spider that Superman fought, and people were like, why? I think Kevin Smith was like, why would there be a giant spider in this movie? But that's what Tim Burton wanted. And Kevin Smith was like, Superman would never fight a giant spider. And Tim Burton was like, well, this is my movie or something. And there was just a lot of like, it was pretty ill conceived from what it sounds like.
That sounds
Nobody
fantastic.
Could get along or figure out what to do. And like Nicolas Cage, the test shots of him in a Superman costume, it's so weird and
he's got like super long hair in it, doesn't he?
And he has black hair and it's really long. He looks like it's weird.
To be fair, like those kinds of shots can always look real goofy. Like when they first showed what's his face, current Superman as like Geralt. He looked like so fucking bad in like the wig and stuff when they put out those promo images of like, here's the costume test or whatever. Yeah, Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
When they put out the promo images like of him like here's the costume. It looked like
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah,
It did.
you're not wrong.
Yeah,
Well, 'cause it did have-
the Nick
It didn't have
Cage
proper
stuff did
lighting
look
and stuff.
goofy. Yeah. The Nick Cage stuff though was weird because like he's got like super long hair, and it's like this does not look like Superman.
And there's other pictures of him with his hair cut, and like it wouldn't have actually necessarily been him in long hair in the movie,
Yeah,
but still, he just doesn't look right for that
Sure.
character.
yeah. I mean, that's totally fair.
You know which
Hey,
character
the
does?
90s were a different time.
There's a character
Yeah.
who does typically have really long hair, and I think it probably looks good. And her name is Samus.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you
Yeah,
think
maybe
of-
she's maybe she's got long hair in this game. I don't know.
Did they not show her face, or like her without the helmet?
No.
Okay.
Maybe there's like a secret, and I don't think there is though. I don't think there's a way to see her sans helmet in this game. Like you could see her like eyes at some points. Like they do some dramatic close-ups of like through the visor, get the
That's
eyes.
literally my favorite thing about Metroid Prime is when the light flashes and you can see like the
Mm.
reflection of her face in the
Mhm,
visor.
mhm.
That is like the fucking coolest visual effect that blew
yeah.
my mind when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
That was cool. But wait, so isn't okay? We're talking about Metroid Dread now, but isn't like I saw people talking about like angry Samus? Was this just like angry
Oh, yeah.
eyes that show up?
No, so, like it's a spoiler to tell you what it is, but
Okay.
it's so fucking cool.
Okay.
Well, don't.
to know, good to
I
know.
think I'm gonna play
I'll,
this game
I'll
eventually.
probably play it sometime too.
Yeah.
but okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
it was a spoiler.
Yeah, so like there is an angry Samus, like that's not so much a spoiler, just like telling you what happens would be a spoiler.
Okay,
yeah.
fair enough.
But there's a lot of yelling, and it's really fucking cool.
Samus has a voice in this game. Okay.
Yes, Samus does speak in this game,
Okay,
but Samus
that's
has
cool.
spoken in other games.
Yeah, she
with
spoke
the
a
Other
lot in
M.
Metroid M, and Other M.
This one is neat because like Samus is mostly quiet, despite like the technology has progressed to a point where they can put a voice in like a mainline Metroid game, or like the 2D ones, because in the past like Metroid,
she's-
Super Metroid, Fusion, there's never been an option.
Yeah, I feel
Really.
like she's had dialogue, but not spoken. Obviously, not like
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not-
that sounds
not-
right.
There's like text dialogue. I think a
Mhm.
couple of times in a couple of those games.
Yeah.
Probably.
But the times they have Samus speak in this game are like very like considered and thought out,
that's
and
good.
like very
Like,
deliberate.
deliberate. Yeah.
It is not, she's not just like popping off quips like I don't know,
That is-
something ice to meet you and then shoots them with an ice missile or something.
There's no Star Lord, is what you're telling me.
No, she's no
Thank
Star Lord,
God.
thank God. Yeah, we'll have there be enough of that when that Guardians game comes out.
I don't think there will be. I
All
predict we won't
150
discuss that game on
gigabytes
this
of it?
podcast. 'Cause the
Oh,
only person that's
Sam is going to
play it
show up and
is going to crash the cast to talk about
Yeah.
Guardians.
Did you guys hear
But-
about the 150 gigabyte thing?
Is that game
Oh, it
150
was like-
gigabytes?
it's got like uncompressed, like the audio or something makes
On
it just like massive.
Yeah, on
That's-
Steam it showed up as 150 gigabytes. I think they later corrected it to say like
Yeah,
80 or 90, but
Mm,
That's still too much space on my hard drive for that game.
Anyways.
That game though is the perfect example of something that'll probably come out, and there'll be like 3 or 4 people that give it a 10, and I'll be like, "Fuck! Well, now I need to know," and I'll end up playing it.
but kind of like Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread, real fucking good. I would probably say so. Last time I was on the cast, like 2 weeks ago, I had only played like a couple hours. Now I've beaten it twice. Once on normal and then once on hard, doing 100% run, collecting all the missile tanks and health and all that stuff. And game good. It's got problems, like it's a little bit too easy to get I won't say lost, but not know where to go. It doesn't like signpost things well.
Yeah, it
And-
sounds like there's a lot of secret blocks that you kind of have to interact with. That know.
There are some instances where I was like, where am I supposed to go? And I looked it up as like, oh yeah, you're supposed to run up here and just like shoot this wall, and there's like, these are like blocks you can blow up. I'm like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
eventually you get an item like a power up that lets you like see where those are, but it doesn't help you before you have that, where you're like, oh shit, okay, where do I go? Accessibility stuff I mentioned before, like there's not really much you can't really change like button combos, and there's no like adjustment of the difficulty other than beat the game and unlock hard mode. I don't think the game is necessarily hard. It's difficult, but it's also pretty forgiving in that it gives you very generous checkpoints very often. Like if you enter like a new zone or like a certain distinct zones, you'll have a checkpoint right before you go in, which is very helpful for like the Emmy situations because they can be a little tedious at times. The Emmys are the big robots that were in the reveal trailer, and they can one-hit kill you. Basically, if they touch you, you go into a canned animation, and you've got like 2 chances to do a super quick time event.
SQTE, yes.
Yeah. It's like it flashes. There'll be like a flash on the screen, which is the general across the game is the symbol that enemies give you that you can like counter with the X button or the Y button or whatever it is, and then you can usually get a one-hit kill. Yeah. You can't kill these things until like you do like certain requirements, but you can like stun them if you get this melee counter off. But it happens so fast, and the timing is not consistent. And it's it's random. So you got to be like, basically, you're like trying to read the game's mind, because sometimes it'll be instantaneous. Sometimes they'll kind of wait around a little bit and like, they're trying to like juke you, which stinks as you're trying to make your way through it the first time, just because it's a little bit of a puzzle making your way through the areas. You do unlock things that let you bypass them, and then you can eventually like take them out of the game. But I could see them being frustrating for people, just because you're encountering them a lot and having to put up with a lot of bullshit with them.
Did you find?
It's kind of
Sorry. What? Did you find yourself doing the speed run strategy or the stealth around strategy?
The first time through an area, I was trying to like, okay, how do I get through here? I just need to like take it slow, and then eventually be like, screw it, I'm just gonna run and we'll see where I end up. But there were definitely times where you need to like, okay, I have to take it slow, because if I make a wrong move here or something, then they're going to hit me, and then there's like a 80% chance, 90% chance that I'm going to die and have to like restart. But luckily, like I was saying, they are pretty generous with the checkpoints, and like those checkpoint you right outside an Emmy zone, and they're like in distinct zones, so you always know when you're going into a space where you can encounter one. But lost my train of thought. But they're not the same. They're not always in the same spot, like when you load that checkpoint. So sometimes you might load a checkpoint and then walk through the door, and they'll be like right in front of you, like a little bit away, but they'll be like right there. And then other times they won't even be in like that room you're in. They'll be in like a different zone of their zone. So that's interesting and can make it a little bit easier, because you're like, okay, well, I know where to go and they're not around me, so I can just book it, which is nice. And there are some there are some things that are planned, like account for sequence breaks, or like I don't want to. Yeah, it's like for sequence breaks. It's for stuff that you shouldn't or normally wouldn't be able to do unless you know where to go and like get good at the controls to access early, and like where you can do like a quick kill on a boss or stuff like that, which is fun. Which on like a second playthrough is a fun thing to do if you're into doing the more difficult platforming stuff. There are some really ridiculous platforming challenges they put in there to like 100% the game and get all the missile tanks and health stuff, which sometimes just felt not fun because the Switch controller, even using the Pro controller, just did not feel good to me. Like it just didn't control well enough and like couldn't understand like when to do. It's like I feel like I'm hitting the right buttons, but just not getting what I needed to. Eventually, I got it all though.
Yeah, that's one
And-
of the chief complaints I've heard just listening to others talk about the game is that the controls ask for a level of precision that sometimes they don't offer. Like something
Yeah.
like the using the ball, you have to push down on the analog stick sometimes, and it's like that can be
Uh-huh.
hit or miss. Where so people instead use the button on the side. I forget
Mhm.
if
It's
the-
like
the-
ZL or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah. And
The
even
Switch
then,
controller
like,
being shit. Oh,
because it's like because that button is also like a slide, so you have to like hit down and like the controls.
I heard people saying you
are
should buy
lacking.
the Hori pad thing that bolts onto the sides to play this game because the controls, because it's not good with the Joy-Cons that are attached in portable mode, and it looks like ass when you dock the Switch.
I thought it looked fine on the TV, but yeah,
I haven't played it, so I was,
you could
Yeah.
You could play the PC version maybe.
that's
God.
things are in motion. I may have received some private messages from someone that I know about ways in which you can play this game on PC. As I said last week, though, there's no way that I would still buy the game on Switch if I were to play it
Yeah.
anywhere. I'm not a seafaring. I am a seafarer, but not in that way. Not in the pirating way.
yeah. This would be. I have to say, this is like my favorite game I've played on Switch. I think, or at least
Interesting.
Nintendo made.
Yeah, that tracks. It sounds good. I definitely want to play it at some
yeah.
point.
But there are definitely some issues with it. Like, it doesn't hold your hand at all. Like, it doesn't tell you where to go, and it doesn't. There are things you can do that will like give you hints. Like, you can highlight you can highlight a door, and it'll highlight all those kinds of doors on the map and be like, oh, here, these are all the doors. So if you get a new thing like a missile, you'd be like, oh, there's a missile door here. You can highlight the missile door and be like, oh, there's a missile door over here that you've seen, but you haven't been able to use. The game doesn't tell you can do this.
But that's a really good feature.
Yeah,
Yes,
I like that.
but they don't tell you can use it. So I didn't know I
Yeah.
could do it until like the like my second playthrough.
Yeah, that's kind
I
of
knew
like
about
when
it
I
because I've heard them talk about it on a couple podcasts.
Mhm,
So.
sure. Yeah.
But
Now,
I
if
can
you
see that
are
being
looking to play
annoying.
the game, listener, you can now
You too.
Yeah, that reminds me of like when I played Maquette, and it's like
Mhm.
got like 90% of the way through that game, and they didn't tell you at any point that you could hold like the X button or something to reset to like reset the area. So like I just kept like reloading a save, so I would lose like 20 minutes of progress.
That
God.
happened to me in the Riders Republic beta.
Oh.
I was like, this game's cool on the forums for the game. I was like, this game is cool, but there's no quick restart because like you would hit start and it was like you could quit out of an event, but there was no way to just restart the event quickly if you fucked it up. And it was infuriating because it's like quit out of the event, go back to the marker to start it again, or you could finish it and then click restart at the end. But it turns out if you hold down the back button, then it will do a restart. There's no prompt
It's
for that
so
anywhere.
weird. Yeah,
You have to
that's
hold it down, and there's a little ring that shows up to show you that
so
you're holding it
weird.
down.
There was
and
no
then it
ring in
bounces you back
Maquette.
to the top.
There was no ring, and it did not indicate that you could do that at any point
Yeah.
except for the last 10 minutes.
You gotta
So
be fucking
so
kidding.
I get you, Andre. Like if you had not
Yeah.
discovered it until like your last 10 minutes, that would actually be pretty frustrating. But
Yeah,
the fact,
like
but
because I
hit
spent
mechanics-
so much time, running around going, okay, where am I supposed to go? And like, the map is like broken up into like not pixels, but small blocks, like pretty granular. It's like,
yeah.
oh, there's like a thing here that I can like shoot, or like, like I have to go through as like the ball or whatever. And so
Yeah.
like, don't feel ashamed to like look up a walkthrough or like where do I go on your first time playing, or use the map to like find new things that you can use your powers on. That'll make the experience a lot better. It is difficult. accessibility not great, not Nintendo's strong suit,
Never has been.
but yeah, it is a fun game and rewarding and pretty fucking sweet in like the animations, the cutscenes they have. Samus is just the baddest motherfucker. So
I've heard it has a weird bonkers ass ending as well.
yeah,
like I haven't heard what it
Tracks
is.
for Metroid.
Yeah, but I've heard like the last act or so is just really off the chains and in a cool way.
it's neat. I had a good time with it. So Samus is just cold-hearted. That's Metroid Dread. I finally put it to rest after I beat it on hard mode 100%. Don't have to think about it anymore.
Nice.
But maybe I'll come back to it, try to like speed run it someday or something. I don't know. But in the meantime, I hear that Pat, you and Alex have been living the good life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're now in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Is
Just
it
a
in?
little-
It's like in Scotland, right?
I think so, because there's a lot of Tays and Dinays
Yeah,
and things
yeah.
like that.
There's certainly characters that have British accents too, but it
Yeah.
seems like it's predominantly, maybe it's like Northern Britain, because but it seems predominantly Scottish people.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I did not take note of the region if they did say explicitly, but yeah, The Good Life, Swery's new game, Kickstarter game. I don't know about you, Pat. I think you and I both backed it, so should probably put that
Yes.
up front to say we were both Kickstarter backers on this video
But
game.
I also will.
Shill.
I mean, I wasn't very excited for it, I will say. After
Yeah,
I
and
backed it was like, oh, this is cool. Then I kind of forgot about it for a long time.
Yeah, I also actively I checked out the updates, but I didn't like keep up with them religiously. I wasn't like watching everything, being like, "Oh, cool, they've added this system, rad." So like going into it, it was still pretty fresh for me. It just in terms of like not knowing what to expect. And Pat, have you looked at the map in that game?
Oh yeah, it's enormous.
It's fucking huge.
It's yeah.
Like you must get a car at some point, like Deadly Premonition style, because like
I don't.
I was like, I opened the map, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, yeah, there's this whole village, and then it's like, oh, if you go northwest or something, there's a church you can go to, and it's like, oh, okay, what's up there? And it's like that map keeps fucking going to the point where they have a like, if you're using controller, you can hit right trigger to accelerate how fast you're moving from the map, because it's like GTA 5 size, like it's huge.
I don't think it's quite that big, but it's very big. And as far as I know, you get a sheep. You can ride sheep eventually. That's the
okay.
faster method. There is a fast travel mechanic as well.
Yeah, I saw you could teleport yourself home at least. So.
There's also shrines around that you can interact with to teleport around.
Yeah, I'm only about an hour in.
Money.
So.
Yeah, I didn't get. I'm like 90 minutes in. I haven't played a ton more of it because I think it's a very so. If you haven't seen this game, it is very much like what if Deadly Premonition were much less spooky and didn't have any of the shooting stuff in it.
Yeah,
and it was just like
life sim almost.
Yeah. So you've got your hunger meters, you got your exhaustion meters, you got your mood meter, and
there's a dedicated skip button, as in like instead of just walking, you are now skipping like happily.
Yeah. Okay. There's and you are purchasing ingredients to cook foods or going to the cafe and buying food to eat it and stuff, and you're a photographer, so the way you're making money is by taking photos of trending words, trending terms. So it'll be like hydrangeas is trending, so you got to find some hydrangeas to take a picture of, and that's kind of how you're
hashtag smiling families was one I had.
Yeah, and you'll find that stuff, and that stuff's kind of interesting. But then like kind of the core of the game is there's like this sort of walking simmy mystery happening around the town that's revolved around the fact that at full moons everyone turns into dogs and cats when the sun goes down and the moon comes up.
Oh,
and
right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
I think some of the writing is genuinely very funny. The story to me is like, I'm kind of like, whatever. This seems like it's gonna just be weird. It doesn't have the same kind of hooks to me that Deadly Premonition had, where it was like, I gotta know what's going on here because it's so weird. Instead, now it's almost just like, it's sweary. There's probably some ancient pagan spell being cast on this town. Who knows? And I don't know if the gameplay is compelling enough for me to play through the whole thing, but it's interesting to see it come to fruition, I think.
Yeah, like it's got a lot of character, and like there's a lot of characters to interact with, and they all feel very individual, which is cool. Like the bartender is really funny. I don't know if you spent much time talking to her.
A little bit.
Yeah, like the kids that run around, like the people who the guy who runs the cafe, and or is it the lady who runs the cafe? No, it's the guy that runs the cafe, and then the lady occasionally comes in on a schedule to chow down. Like there's like, it ends up feeling very much like you're in a small village, so they kind of nailed that. And like you're getting to know all the citizens, you're getting to know the area pretty fast because it's not too big. Well, the immediate area. It's better than I thought. Though, Pat, question: do you know if there's a way to manually save? I don't think so, right?
No, I don't believe so. I think it just auto saves every 2 minutes or so.
Yeah. So, because like I was like, oh, I gotta head out. Well, I hope I don't lose any progress. And then I lost like 10 minutes of progress. I was like, well,
yeah,
whatever. So I guess I'll just have to pick those quests back up again. But whatever. So like it's still got some jank, but I will say it feels less janky than pretty much any game Swery's made thus far.
Yeah, it doesn't look. It very much looks like a high-res PS2 game.
Sure.
In terms of like the visual design, which is fine.
Gorgeous.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't. The characters are the thing that looks the best, and that's fine because that's like the most important part. But the environments are very simple. The biggest frustration I have with it is, there's times the map is like dedicated to this notion of the low stone wall that you see lots of in the UK, and there's no jump button.
There's no jump, yeah.
And frequently it'll just be like, I don't know, you're just gonna have to walk for another 2 or 3 minutes down the path to get to a break in the wall, to get where it turns left.
At least you can hit R1 on a PlayStation controller and run, so that's okay. But
yeah, but you do have stamina.
You do have stamina, and if you run out of stamina, then she just like crawls, like is just like oh no, like so slow.
Yeah.
That's the Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, so
but
that
it recovers
stuff is
pretty
like,
quickly.
You can turn into a cat. You're telling me you can't vault over this stone wall as a cat? It's like waist height. It's not even like chest height.
It really is like a PS2 game.
Yes. Yeah. And so that stuff is that's actually the reason that I ended up turning the game off the other night, is because I was like, this is charming and I'm going to play more of this, but I don't want to deal with having to find a break in this wall for the next 5 minutes. I just want to go to bed.
It's very charming. It's probably going to be one of those games that I play in like 20-minute chunks. Just like I got a free half hour. Let's see what kind of quests we can do, because like there's a shit ton of side quests. Like I played for an hour and I had like probably a dozen or more side quests that I could do at any given point.
It almost feels to me like Stardew Valley without the farming or the dungeon.
Yeah, it does have farming for what it's worth, but
it does, yes,
but
it's not as deep.
It's not nearly as deep.
And if that to you, like to me, that is relatively appealing because I like life simmy games that are just like do whatever. But I can see if it's hard for me to recommend this game unless what you are looking for is a reasonably interesting but probably not overly compelling mystery with a bunch of quirky characters in a town where you have to go to sleep at some point to get your energy meter back up. Like, if that sounds like something you want to do, I think this is a good one of those, and there are not enough games that do that, in my opinion. And I'm happy with it, but
it's also on Game Pass, so I think there's a very low barrier to entry if someone does want to try it, and I think it's worth a shot. Like, because it does not take long for you to get into the thick of the actual, like, you know, you get freedom within the first 5 to 10 minutes, and you can kind of do whatever you want. It railroads you until you get to your own home, so it can establish the core system of like you take pictures, you upload them to a Instagram equivalent, and that's how you get money, basically.
No, so you're an influencer.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of, yeah.
More or less in a lot of ways. And there is a live streamer character in there, which is kind of funny.
Do they go into the bathroom or something? Or
no, there's no doctors as far as I'm aware. Sorry, go for it, Pat.
You can figure out what that game is in like half hour, 40 minutes.
I would say 15 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and you'll be able to tell if you're gonna like it, I think, in that time.
Yeah, and I think it's good. Like, I'm not gonna say it's like game of the year level, but I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it's at least interesting. I want to play more of it before I say whether I think it's good or bad.
Yeah,
but it is at least interesting, I guess. The thing that was most surprising to me is what sort of made me go, I had a moment where I was like, maybe I shouldn't have backed this, because as it was nearing closer to release and I was seeing a few things here and there about it, I was like, is this going to be like a very wholesome game, which usually just doesn't click with me. It's nothing against, it's a vibe that a lot of people really enjoy, but it's hard for me to get into the like very overly charming, I guess almost like twee sort of vibe. This game actually is not like that. Which was like, as soon as
your character's kind of an asshole.
Oh, she's like I'm in this goddamn hellhole.
Yeah,
like
what
she doesn't say shit? She hasn't said, nobody said fuck yet, but there's been a lot of like, this town is a piece of shit. Yeah. I hate it here. And and other characters too. Like, you meet this like kind of like medicine woman is the wrong way to put it, but witch maybe, I guess you could say, but she like runs a potion shop basically in the woods, and she's like just smoking a blunt the whole time, and they make jokes about getting high and stuff. And it's a lot less it's definitely on par with like stuff like Deadly Premonition in terms of its tone of, it's not like a children's game. Basically, that's what I was concerned about, is that it was going to be like a kid's game, which is fine. It wouldn't mean that it couldn't be good, but it wouldn't have been as much for me. But at least, but if you look at it and worry about that, you should still try it.
Yeah, it's wholesome, but adult wholesome. In a lot of ways. It's I don't know if there's that much to talk about with it, but it's good. It's if you're in for that kind of game, if you liked Shenmue, but you want good,
that's
Shenmue,
a good touchstone,
then I think this is kind of like that.
I'm not quite ready to say whether I think it's better or worse than Shenmue, but it is definitely like Shenmue.
So it's a Shenmue like. That's okay.
Yes. That's a good comparison, I think. Yeah.
Though I've not seen a forklift yet. So
or is it a Shenmue light?
Which, like I said, I think you just
a Brooklyn definition for Shenmue.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's good.
What else have we both played?
I don't know, Pat. But we have to wait for our intrepid host to allow us to talk about what else we have both played.
Is this like segue? Inscription.
Speaking of houses and
speaking of villages, what is this? Some kind of pony island?
Of ponies, yeah.
All the humans all turn into ponies. What is this? What kind of island is this?
That's what Pony Island is. Yep.
From the creator of Pony Island, Inscription came out this week.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you played of it, Alex. I played a few hours.
I think I played about an hour. I think I had set aside about half an hour last night because it's been a long week, and I think I ended up playing for like an hour and a half because I got pulled into it.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but it's extremely compelling from a visual and vibe perspective. Yeah. Like probably the most interesting game I've played this year from that perspective.
So, Pat, you have written down here that you've also been playing Pony Island. Pat or Andre, have you played Pony Island?
I don't don't think so. I might have like touched it or watched some people play it. Like I feel like I maybe watched Giant Bomb play
It's
part
only
of
like
it. I don't know.
I
Like
already
2
had
hours,
Hex,
2 or 3.
so which is the other Daniel Mick Mullen. I always mix it up. Mullen game. And so I just bought their like little collection thing they put out because it was only like $2 more for me to get Pony Island with Inscription. And I breezed through Pony Island, and like my thoughts on it are mostly in comparison to Inscription. So I think that's why I didn't like list it separately, because ultimately, I mean, I think my final thoughts on Pony Island are it's interesting, and I get why people liked it then. I don't think it's a particularly good video game. I think it's a very interesting like thing, but it's good that it's only 2.5 hours, because I think it's done by then.
Mechanically, there's nothing there. Like it's especially when you're playing the quote unquote game. So for listeners, if you don't know what Pony Island is, the conceit, and we'll relate this back to Inscription, but Pony Island, basically the conceit is you find this old arcade game like in some dark room essentially, and you play it, and it's almost like an edutainment game of like you're jumping around this pony, like it's kind of like a runner or auto scroller, right, Pat? Like it's been like 5 or 6 years since I've played it, but it has
like it has like an end point for the levels. It's a flag at the end, but you're jumping over. You're just jumping.
It, like over fences, like kind of thing. It's very simple, and then quickly you find out this machine has been possessed by some kind of demonic spirit, and the rest of the game becomes like the demonic spirit trying to take over the world, essentially, like break out of the game and then make its presence known.
And it's almost more like when like hell is in the cabinet, and it's like people get trapped there, and then they're in hell and stuff. And there's a whole like the real core gameplay of the game is there's a puzzle solving system where there's like a dot that moves along a track, and you're doing like these weird little programming puzzles. And it's fine. I never thought those puzzles were particularly deep or interesting. And certainly the gameplay itself of jumping the pony around is not particularly deep or interesting, but it's clever.
I don't mean this in a dismissive way at all, but that game is all about the novelty. Like it's about like the weird, crazy shit that he came up with that like you don't see show up in games very often, like, if ever.
Spoilers for Pony Island. Stop listening if you're like, oh, I gotta play this now. But like the coolest thing that happens in the game that actually like gave me goosebumps and made me go holy shit out loud, and it's very cool, near the end is you have to type things to this this demon that's in the thing, and he says just type any word, it doesn't matter what it is. And so I typed fuckface and then I got a Steam message from somebody on my friends list that's like was playing a game online and was like, fuckface, what the hell? Did you like get hacked or something? And it's so convincing the way that the message pops up that I was like,
it's
did the game actually message somebody on my Steam friends list? And it's not. It's just
so good.
That part was pretty good. That part was smart and did a Doki Doki Literature Club in a big way that I appreciated. I don't think that overall it's as good as something like DDLC, but
it inspired it by
for sure.
For sure, because it's not a new game. It's from 2015 or 16, somewhere around
16.
there. Yeah. Like
so anyway,
it's great.
Ultimately, like my thoughts. We can talk deeper about Inscription, but the thing I wanted to relate Pony Island to is I have yet to figure out for me if Inscription is Pony Island with a slightly more elaborate sheen over it, or if I think it's a genuinely like great game. So that's kind of where I'm at currently with like interfacing with Inscription. But I'm curious how far you've gotten with it.
I've died twice.
Okay.
I have not. The first time I died was at the boss because I didn't realize it had a second phase, and I had like I was like, wow, I played this perfectly. And then the second phase happened and I had like 3 cards left. And I was like, fuck. So that was my own fault because I didn't know it had that. And then the second time I was just kind of experimenting a bit and like basically knew I was going to die. And I think I feel similarly to how I feel about Pony Island, where I think the core gameplay is serviceable. I think like the core card game that you're playing is fine. It has as much depth as it needs, but I don't think it's like the best card game I've ever played. And for longtime listeners, you'll know that like deck building games aren't really my thing, but I think for what it is, I've been enjoying this deck building game because there is a certain amount of strategy you can employ, and like I think it's a little limiting in some ways, and it is very RNG based, which I think can be a little annoying. But everything around it is great. Like how I don't think any of this is spoilers, but if you guys want to go into Inscription blind, I recommend it, and maybe skip into our next time marker. But like I found stuff like the roguelike parts of it, like where you can basically augment one of your cards by sacrificing another one. Like that was cool. I think the parts where you're at the map and then suddenly you can get up from the table and walk around the room and like do like puzzles that are like straight out of the room or something that you're getting hints from, like from the UI. Like I think that stuff is kind of fun, and it's like, oh, that was cool. That was unexpected. Like the stuff that you get from that is kind of interesting. And
I think if you haven't seen it and you're still listening and you want to, this game is it's like a deck builder, roguelike deck builder. But then yes, you can get up and walk around this cabin. The thing about it is I don't think the puzzles around the cabin they're not really puzzles. It's more like you'll get the hint while you're playing the card game that's like the safe combination is this basically. And then you walk over and you put the combination in the safe. So far, they've all been like that. It's very much like, oh, now I have the hint, so I can enter the thing, which is still fun because you're like, oh, I can see the next thing in the cabin. But it's very linear in that way as you progress through the elements of the cabin. And I think I'm finding the card game from a vibe, tone, visuals perspective. This game, like I said, probably the most compelling game I've played all year, aside from the Outer Wilds DLC. But that's more Outer Wilds, which is already something that we know how I feel about. So it's not really fair to compare. Like the visuals and sound of this game are incredible. The vibe that you get while you're playing it, incredible. It's also, I recommend it to you even if you don't like scary games, because it's not a jump scare game at all. It's very spooky vibes, but it's not like there's a couple of things that can occur in it that are very unsettling.
And I think I know exactly which one you're thinking about, and it's
tied
so
to
good.
items that you get.
One of the first items you get, in fact.
There's another one you get later too that is arguably worse.
Sick. I look forward to that.
It's that stuff is very good. But I mean, if you have some specific body horror phobias, you may want to look into some content warnings first, because there's not really much of a warning for some of the fucked up stuff that happens to your body in this game. There's
some fucked up stuff that happens to your character, because you are playing from a first person perspective. Like you are a person in this world. But and it's weirdly an isekai, by the way.
Sort of. I mean, you don't really. It's I don't know if I would call it an isekai, because you just don't really have any context for how you got there.
Other than the very, very start of the game where you hit that play button and someone's like, "Oh, let's see what's on this." Click.
Oh yeah, that's true. It does have that weird external layer, where it's almost like a found footage type thing.
That's super hot.
And that's where I want to see. Yes, it is like super hot. I want to see more of that stuff, because I think that stuff could be very interesting.
From what I've heard, it goes places, so
which is cool. So I'm going to keep playing for that. But I think the RNG of the card game is like, it feels very much like it was barely play tested. Like maybe 5 to 10 people played a few rounds. Like I was talking to Sam about it last night, and Sam has been like, oh, you just do this and this and it's easy, and I have not one time seen the stuff that Sam has described happen in the 10 runs that I've done, and he's saying that he's getting it consistently. It's just like
it's RNG. There's a lot of
RNG. I wish so much that, and maybe there is a way to do it. I wish you could just bail out of a run, because at this point I'm kind of like, okay, well, if I can't get this in the first 3 nodes, what's the point of continuing? Because it seems like if you don't trigger this thing, you're not going to get it, and there's no reliable way to do that. And you have so few choices when you are given choices, and it's so easy for all of them to be bad. It kind of stinks, because I think the card game is pretty fun. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. It's got some depth.
Yeah. But I would absolutely fuck around with this multiplayer a little bit, playing with another person, for example. But I wouldn't put tons of money into it, but I would definitely think it's fun. This is the kind of game that I would love it if I could buy a physical set of the cards and just have them.
You totally
could. And then pull it out with a friend and just play a 10-minute game in between tabletop matches or something. It's fun. It's a fun little card game, but a lot of your choices are reliant on moving around this map, and then it's like you'll get a choice of 3 cards. If all 3 of the cards suck, now you have 3 cards in your deck that all one of 3 cards that sucks, and it's just a dead card, really.
Or there's something that's on the board that you can't move, and it's like you only have 4 spots to work with, and if suddenly 2 of them are taken up by rocks or trees or whatever that you can't move, now you only have 2 spots to work with. And the way the mechanics work, it's like you need to kind of min-max the slots that you have available in order to properly play the cards you need.
And if it just so happens that there's a rock on your side of the table and a bird spawns on your opponent's side of the table that can fly over the rock, and then you can't kill the bird because there's nothing, you can't play anything in the spot that the lane that the bird's going to attack in, you're fucked. And if you happen to have visited the trapper, because the only way that you could get to the wood carver, which is the way to get the totem that's good, I know this doesn't necessarily make sense, it doesn't matter if you know what I'm talking about, and then you have to go to the trapper because you have to, and then you have to take at least a single card that is now going to be a dead card in your deck, and then the next thing that you do next thing that you do is a harder battle, and then you draw your hand, and it's a pelt, the useless card you picked up, a squirrel, and something you can't that costs 3 blood
bones,
and then your opponent is like, well, it's the first turn, but I'm spawning 4 enemies, 4 ants for you right off the bat to fight against
grizzly bears.
And it's just okay, well, my run's done. The 30 minutes I just spent playing, all undone in 5 minutes because I had shit choices to work with. So that's extremely frustrating, and I think it's poor design. Games like Slay the Spire, which is sort of the template for this genre,
or even Solitarica, if you want to go earlier too. But
sure, Slay the Spire is not a perfect game, but it mitigates these issues by making the choices a lot more it feels just more balanced. In Inscryption, it feels like when you get to pick a card, it's well, we'll pick any 3 cards out of the 40 or whatever cards that are in this game, so all 3 of them could be trash. Whereas in Slay the Spire, it's well, you're going to get a pick between 3 cards that are all based on a different way you could build your deck, so there's strategic choice here. And so I wish that Inscryption had better balance, because I think it's kind of starting to get frustrating to me to try to keep pushing forward with it. And there's not a lot more frustrating with any game than when your friends are like, what are you talking about? It's easy. I'm glad you're having a good time with it, but
Pat, you just got to get good.
I think the RNG, but it's kind of like Pony Island. That's kind of why I was prefacing by saying Pony Island gameplay is not why you're there. It's for the quote unquote novelty and seeing the creative shit that pops out of it. Because the mood of it, the vibe, like you said, all of that stuff is 100% on point. I love the way it tells its story like especially through like the stoat and stuff like that, which you'll probably hear people talking about. Where some of your cards will talk to you.
And the subtle visual changes as you continue to interact with those cards are unsettling and very good.
Yeah.
But I am interested to see where it goes, because I think if it goes really compelling places, then cool. I could see putting up with the card game RNG being worth it. I will say, as cool as a lot of that stuff is right now, it's definitely in that place of like, it's writing checks that it has yet to cash from a interactivity standpoint. Because again, all that stuff in that cabin, it's like, oh, this is cool that this happened, but all this is, well, now I know where to click. It's definitely not puzzle solving at all. And that's been fun to progress through so far, but I definitely need to see where it's going, because if where it goes is fun, but there's no deeper gameplay to be found, it's kind of like, it's hard for me to like give it my seal of approval if it's just ends up being a cool vibe to the end, but we'll see. I don't know.
I think I'm also kind of I'm pretty positive on it, but I will definitely wait until I have finished it before kind of giving it any kind of stamp. But I think it's a very it has a lot of really great ideas so far,
for sure.
And whether or not those come to fruition, we'll definitely see. But like, it has lots of clever things. Like, I love the health system, if you want to think of it that way. I think it's a really clever health system, which, again, if you haven't seen it, it's a scale. So like, if they do damage to you, the scale tips towards your side. If you do damage to them, the scale tips towards their side. And basically, whichever side hits the floor first is the side that loses, which is what the pliers will do for you. I don't know if we want to get into that, but
no, let's let Andre discover that on his own.
Yeah, Andre, you should play that.
I played the Resident Evil 7 DLC where you're playing like blackjack to not lose a limb. They're like, oh, if you lose a finger. So I think I know what Inscription's all about.
Yeah, you should. It's a little more than that, but you should definitely get there.
It's an interesting game, and I'm hoping that I come away. It's the sort of thing where right now I could come away from it very negative, I think, or like, this is my favorite game of the year. That's like, totally. I think it could end up going either direction.
Yeah, I would probably tend to agree.
It's a bummer that it's so weighed down by like the RNG stuff.
Yeah,
I think at the same time, it's tough because I'm not saying I don't like any RNG. I think if it was just like Pony Island style puzzles and the card game didn't have any meat to it at all, I breezed through it in 2.5 hours, I'd probably be like, whatever. Because that's kind of how I feel about Pony Island is, like, it's fine. I get it's got its cool ideas. It had a couple very cool moments, but so I think it needed, I'm glad that it is actually a card game and not just a series of simple puzzles, but also I think it could have just been better balanced.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of balanced, everyone knows that
Wonderland.
No, I was gonna say perfectly balanced, like all things should be. Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing here, Pat? Are you doing like Zone Reclamation Project? Are you doing vanilla?
We're playing vanilla, baby.
Okay.
Yeah. The people, I don't. So I have like 3 relatively quick hits. This is the best one to get out of the way first because I played it the most. But Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl is a game that I've played many times over the years. I've never actually finished it, so I decided I wanted to finish it this time because the folks over at Waypoint have been playing it for their Stocktober. So I read Roadside Picnic a few weeks ago, and I watched the film Stalker, and have been, which I hadn't done either of those before, and have been digging into the Zone in Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl. It's so interesting that game has such a reputation of being broken, because they put out a patch after it was put on Steam that fixes a lot of the primary problems with it. Like Zone Reclamation Project does help to make it even more stable, and it helps to, but like the game has crashed I think twice for me, and whenever it crashes you can paste an error log, like it copies an error log to your clipboard. And I looked up the errors I was getting. Zone Reclamation Project does not fix the errors that I was getting. So I it's a cool patch. I'm glad that people are doing it, but the game is not like a broken mess or anything like its reputation suggests. It's been fine other than those 2 instances of crashing for me. Use quick save a lot too.
Shadow of Chernobyl is the first
Correct,
in the Stalker games. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So it is a very interesting shooter. It's sort of open world, but not really, because you are kind of going through a sort of set of levels. But the way they present those levels is very like you can go backwards, and they're pretty sprawling. And what I think I find so compelling about this game is it is immersive in a way that is extremely interesting. I wouldn't call it an immersive sim in its design necessarily, but it is so much a game where you hit a point where you're like, oh yeah, I go back to the bar, I unwind, I sell the artifacts I found, I toss some stuff I want to save for myself in a safe, and I hang out here for a little bit, and I talk to the characters, and I pick up some jobs, and then I'm back out in the zone doing like getting by. And it's like, oh well, this time I found a couple extra artifacts and a couple nice high quality guns, and got out of there without spending too much ammo, and I came out ahead. This time it took like all of my ammunition to deal with this, and I'm down 2,000 or 3,000 rubles because I had to pick up more ammo. And that part of it I think is so good.
That reminds me, like, I also loved the Stalker games back when they came out. Like, my friend and I would sit at his PC in their living room playing them, and just loved them. And if people need like, you've never heard of Stalker, or you're just unfamiliar and you need a more modern touchstone, it's, to me, it always seemed like the inspiration, gameplay wise, not story wise, because they come from different places, but it was very much an inspiration for games like Metro. So
yeah,
like if you kind of have a feel for what Metro is, you're kind of like a quarter to halfway there of understanding what Stalker is going for.
Yeah, I mean, Stalker's based on Roadside Picnic is about these zones that are kind of around the world, and Roadside Picnic set in Canada, but it's these zones that are around the world that are the result of a very short alien invasion that didn't really expand outside of them, and they left behind these basically just junk, like weird objects and fields and things, not even necessarily monsters so much as just like trash and clouds of weird radiation, and Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl imagines it. Well, I actually haven't finished the story, so I don't know where it goes, and I'm excited to see it because I want to know. But it's set in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, so it's kind of framed. The understanding people have is it was because in 2007 or whatever, the fuel store that was buried under Chernobyl exploded, and that's what caused the zone to exist. But otherwise, it is directly inspired by the idea of just like weird junk laying around that it has special properties, and like floating clouds of death and stuff like that. And then because it's a video game, there are monsters that have kind of evolved due to the resulting radiation and stuff. They're like mutants. They're not like, whoa, crazy alien, and so much as I've played thus far. But there's some pretty good spooky stuff in the game. And it's just, I mean, I just think it plays pretty well. Like it plays reminiscent to me of something like a Half-Life. It's not quite as hot as Half-Life is, but I think I'm playing on veteran, which is like challenging but not like brutally hard, and the guns suck shit. They're so bad, but in a good way. Like it's just like you aim and shoot and the bullet is like, that's not where I aim this gun, but it feels right because the guns, even the ones that are high quality, like high durability, they're basically just like junk. So it's just all the atmosphere and the game feel and the way the environments are constructed are just very cool and remain very cool. I think you have to be looking for a certain kind of game. Like you have to want a sort of at times weirdly frustrating kind of gameplay experience, and you have to want, like, there's moments where it's like, oh, I got a new job, a new quest marker. Oh, it's all the way back in the first zone, so I'm going to spend 20 minutes running all the way back there, and all of the enemies will have respawned, so I'm going to have to fight some dudes. Not all of them, but
bear in mind, this is a 15-year-old game, so a lot of feature comforts we've come to know and love in modern era just simply aren't there.
Yeah. But there's something about it that I find in my brain, though, it activates a sort of like, wow, I'm going to walk back to the first area, and I really like that first area and the way it looks. So, you know, I'll sprint across it again. And I think that's cool. And it's been very fun to revisit. I'm in the Red Forest now, which is where it gets very hard, and I came to a realization that, like, I got to go back and get more armor, because while the durability in this game is not like super frustrating, it's not like things degrade all the time. I've had the same armor for like 4 hours, and it's finally getting to the point where it's not there anymore. And I really need to go all the way back now to a zone that is kind of far away to go and buy new armor, because I need a specific set of armor that has good radiation protection that they don't sell at the closest camp. So gonna do that, and then I've got a couple more maps left after I get through the Red Forest, and I'll see the end. So I doubt I'm gonna jump right into Call of Pripyat and Clear Sky, but I do want to play them eventually.
Call of Pripyat's really good too. It's a good series. There's a new one coming out, right? Stalker 2? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I think that game's gonna suck. I can't imagine. Like, it's the main guy who's at, what is it, GSC Game Worlds, was the developer.
I'm not familiar.
He's been trying to make, he was like one of the, I think he was the lead developer on Shadow of Chernobyl and the other two. He's been wanting to make Stalker 2 since those games, and has been continually trying and basically like firing and hiring developers since then, and like has run out of money multiple times. And at one point, like THQ Nordic was, I want to say, they were like saying they were making Stalker 2, and then he was like, no, fuck you, I'm making Stalker 2. And
Microsoft gave that dude money.
There was like a battle over the website, I think, if I recall, as to who owned the website. And yeah, so, and I mean, Microsoft did give him money, and I hope that the game is good, because it would be great to have a cool modern version of this game. But my hopes are very low for Stalker 2.
They also gave money to the Vampire the Masquerade or Vampire Bloodlines 2, and that, I mean, was almost canceled. And then
it's important to keep in mind that any video game budget is like the change in your pocket to Microsoft. Like, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, so they don't have, I'm sure they're kind of just like, whatever, a few $1 million, $10 million even, to one of these companies, if one of them happens to be the next Fortnite, which is a ridiculous thing to suggest for Stalker or Vampire, but you know, I'm sure that's how the boardroom people.
What if all the kids are doing Stalker dances
exactly
this time, next year?
It's worth it to them. So yeah, but I hope it's good. Atomic Heart also looks really fucking rad, and I have much more of hope for that game, and that's got some similar vibes.
If Stalker turns into the next Fortnite, what guest characters do you want to see in Pripyat? Like, do you want to see The Rock in Pripyat? Do you want to see Ariana Grande
Timothy
in Pripyat?
Chalamet.
No, I only want to see prominent Soviet figures.
Vladimir Putin in Pripyat.
Nah, he's too like he
No.
technically counts, but I'm talking about like I want to see like Joseph
I want
Stalin and
the Russian
Karl Marx.
Rasputin.
Let's get- let's get-
Rasputin.
Gorbachev in there.
Yes, now we're fucking talking.
Who's
Uh,
every year they have to put in like, is Russia in Eurovision? I feel like that's a thing, right? Or are they not allowed in?
I think they're
I
in.
think they're in. I don't
It's
watch
just
Eurovision,
every
but I
year
think
they
so.
should put in the Eurovision contestants from Russia.
Oh,
They're just
dude.
not allowed to compete in any international athletics.
Okay. Well, how about Chekhov from Star Trek?
Yeah, that's sure.
I think he'd be pretty good in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I hope Stalker 2 is good.
nuclear
Dolph Lundgren's
lessons.
character from Rocky.
What's good?
I will
Yes.
break you.
What's great about Microsoft giving people like the Vampire devs and Stalker guy money is
Stalker
I'm not going to
guy.
have to buy those games. I'm not going to have to buy those games to try them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
the joys
as
of
far
Game
as I'm
Pass.
concerned, make Stalker 2. I hope he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants with Stalker 2. Maybe it'll be a total mess, but at least I won't have to pay $70 for it to
And-
see
and-
what kind of mess it is.
It's been interesting because this is kind of off topic from Stalker itself, but there was been a lot of speculation that devs that put their games on Game Pass were getting a short end of a stick, shitty deal kind of thing. But like, there's been a lot of reports coming out lately, especially with Megan Fox and stuff like that, saying, yeah, no, it's been wildly successful to have our
Yeah.
game on Game Pass, and like within a month we've made a
think-
profit.
There's such a wide scale of games on Game Pass.
That's also
And
true.
like team size, I bet that like if you are a 15-person team and you happen to get one of the less good deals for your game, it probably feels like you're getting shafted. Whereas if Skatebird is I think 3 total
3,
people.
I think. Yeah.
So it could be that they got a decent deal and there's 3 of them. And my understanding is the game hasn't really like blown the doors off of the platforms that it has been released to more traditionally. It's probably much more profitable and compelling for them to be on Game Pass. I obviously just hope that that developers feel like they're getting a good deal for their work, because that's the most important thing. So I'm really happy
totally.
that if that Skatebird has done better there than what they maybe expected.
But then there was like, what was it? Square Enix and People Can Fly, and People Can Fly being like, we haven't been paid our royalties or whatever by Square, and like they
Yeah,
won't tell us like Game Pass numbers and stuff like that. So, and that, that's kind of a separate thing. But like
Yeah.
the Game Pass stuff gets sticky with like depending on the dev and the publisher situation.
Publisher, relationships.
That's
sure.
kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
The size of the company and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Which
But
I think that's
it's good to know
kind
that it's
of
working for some people, at least. Like, it's not a totally busted system.
Yeah, I do think that's somewhat mutually exclusive, because that kind of comes down to the publisher to dev relationship, assuming the publisher is the one organizing the Game Pass deal.
Yeah.
Sure.
But so like related, but somewhat mutually exclusive. But yeah,
And I guess
overall,
that's kind of the what I'm getting at is it seems like it's a really great place for indie developers who are directly managing their relationship with Microsoft. Whereas when you're under a publisher, the publisher can fuck you over in myriad ways. And at least with direct sales, there is very much from what I have seen from developers talking about it, sometimes publishers also won't tell them what the sales are. But when you get to that point, you can just be like, look, fuck you, tell us how much our game has sold. And it's much more complicated when it's a deal like what Game Pass offers. It's just by its very nature more complex than how many copies has the game sold. So it seems like it's a way that some larger publishers that were already going to fuck over the developer can obfuscate those numbers further, which can be frustrating. But I don't necessarily think that that's the blame lies with Microsoft in those situations. It's just you wonder if maybe some games are too large to really work on Game Pass in a way that ends up benefiting the developer.
I feel like Call of Duty on Game Pass would not be beneficial to the Nightmare Company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's
something of that scale.
Two Nightmare Companies in a pod there.
Well, yeah.
Let's not forget that Microsoft is still making F-35 helmets. Like they're not necessarily
not their gaming division per se.
No.
But overall, yes, parent company.
Hey, who knows what Kinect's being used for now?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
It's
all part of the
Xbox Series X mini fridge in every F-35.
Yeah.
Unrelated, I've been doing some work with some interns, and I made them all very uncomfortable.
That's bad. You shouldn't. That's not good.
But it was very uncomfortable in a funny way, not in like a I want to leave forever way. It was because we were talking about. Did you
tell them to gobble your nuts?
No.
That's HR violation. You should not do that.
I think the word ligma was stated in one of our chats, but it wasn't by me. However, we were talking about setting up this video system for like a social media platform where you can hover your mouse over the icons and it shows the preview like YouTube does now. And I was like, oh, that came from porn. Because like a surprisingly huge amount of technological innovation, especially in the web space, actually came from porn. And
that's technology across the board.
Porn has done a lot for technology, like when it comes to like secure online payments, when it comes to like video streaming codecs, when it comes to like really efficient GIFs, like the porn industry is a tech leader, and that made them very uncomfortable.
Always has been.
Yep. Anyways, Stalker.
Stalker, it's not pornography.
Yet.
Maybe
you don't know what Stalker 2 is.
I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think what I don't know that the models in Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl, unsettling uses.
Hey.
Some
ain't no kink shaming on.
Anyway, one game that Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl absolutely directly inspired was Escape from Tarkov, which is a game. Escape from Tarkov directly inspired another game that I checked out that I'll talk about very briefly, which is the Cycle Frontier. Is currently a game in closed beta on the old Steam. And
the old Steam, not the new Steam.
Not the new Steam. Well, so this originally, when I saw the Cycle Frontier, a friend of mine posted in a group chat like this announcement thing, and I was like, that's weird, because I played the Cycle on the Epic Game Store like a year and a half ago, and it was okay. So I wonder if it died and they're trying to get it going again on Steam, which is kind of what happened, but it's a little more interesting than just like the Cycle used to be just a sort of battle royale like, but where it was about PvE objectives. So you would fight PvE objectives, and then the match would end, and while the match was ending, you had to get to an extraction point, and people would fight around the extraction point, and you could fight with people anytime during the match. And it was interesting, but I thought that the meta progression was a little thin. Wasn't terrible, but it just didn't have a lot of meat, so I kind of fell off of it because I was waiting to see where they would go with it as it arrived at a larger full release instead of being the beta that I was playing. I think maybe it died on Epic, which wouldn't surprise me because like
there weren't enough NFTs in it, so they just
the user base is just.
Tim Sweeney said no thank you.
Like the user base for the Epic Game Store is very large, but discoverability is so trash on that platform.
They're always pushing new free stuff up to the top.
Well,
I guess
I can't imagine
problem, but
it does, but I can't imagine that anyone was finding the Cycle looking at Epic. Player counts were already pretty low. So anyway, this Cycle Frontier, when I saw that it had just come out of NDA, I was like, why would there be an NDA for a relaunch of this game? And it turns out it's because this game is like took it down to the studs Yeah, and rebuilt it as, instead of just a kind of vague battle royale-ish with PvE objectives, it is Tarkov now. It is Escape from Tarkov, but a little bit more player friendly. If you don't know, Tarkov is a game that eventually I want to get a lot more into, because despite previous people no longer working for them having some pretty shitty things to say in the past, the game itself is very compelling. And the idea with this sort of genre, as it's becoming now, because the Battlefield also has a sort of Tarkov inspired mode coming as well, is you are dropping into these locations and you're completing PvE objectives generally. And sometimes, though, like with Tarkov, sometimes you're just dropping in and you're like, whatever, man, let's see what kind of loot we can get. Let's just go like shoot some dudes and see what we can find. And much smaller player counts than battle royales, but still on pretty large maps. And then you're getting out and you're taking your loot that you find with you. And then there's a meta game around sort of selling things that you're finding, almost like an MMO. You're developing like your character outside of the match. You have an inventory outside of the match where you're dropping things. But the big thing is, when you die, you're losing everything that you had on you. So, you go in fully loaded with your kick-ass assault rifle that you've carefully crafted from a bunch of different mods, and your heavy armor and your great helmet and your huge backpack, and then you get shot and killed and all that stuff is gone. Maybe you spent 40 hours grinding for this stuff to get it. It's all gone in seconds. And so what that does, if that doesn't sound appealing to you, I get it. I can see why that would sound awful to a lot of people, but it creates a sort of stakes that, for me at least, get me back to that feeling I had in the early days of PUBG, where I was just basically like running super high adrenaline the whole time. Now when I play battle royales, it's like, fucking whatever. I've done this so many times, I don't care anymore. But playing games like Tarkov, it's like, holy shit, I don't want to die. So the thing that the Cycle Frontier does is it's a little less complicated than Tarkov. The objectives that you're doing in Tarkov, it'll be things like, you'll get a quest that's like, oh, collect this specific kind of shotgun from scavs, which are like the PvE bandit enemies from scavs in this area. And so you do it, but it's like, man, am I in the right area? Are these the enemies that are supposed to drop the shotguns? Let me look at the wiki and stuff. And like, you do a lot of that, and like, you need to pull up an external map generally, because the map in the game doesn't have any objectives on it, or like any, I think it maybe has the extraction points, but like, it's very much a game that is where you're relying on the community to help you figure out how to play it, because it does not give half a fuck about whether you're having a good time or not in the game itself. It'll be things like, oh, you need 40 gauge wire, and you're like, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to find 40 gauge wire. And then you look it up and it's like, oh, well, you can find it. Occasionally it spawns in this box, in this warehouse on this map, but players tend to camp that. So, know that going in. And I love that stuff, but it's very much like hard to get into. What the Cycle Frontier does, one of the things it does is, it's definitely like, you need hardened metals. They spawn in buildings. And then you go and find buildings, and sure enough, there will be hardened metal laying around. And instead of like 1,000 different items that you might need one specific one of, there's like 10 different resources that you're finding in different places. So it makes that a little simpler. The PvE enemies are really hard. That's the thing I'm not sure I'm crazy about in the Cycle yet, is I've only died once, and it was to PvE enemies, because Jesus Christ, like, if you don't see them ahead of time, a couple of them jumped me that I hadn't seen, and they killed me in like 2 hits, and I had full armor on. So I was like, what? And you still lose everything if you die to PvE stuff.
Can you play with a party? Like, is it more, does it seem like it's more balanced to party play for the PvE?
Yes and no. I mean, you can play with a duo, trio, or single player, and you are all mixed up in the same matches. And I think as a single player, you have more freedom to move a little more quietly and to kind of, you don't have to communicate about your decision making, so you're able to be pretty agile in how you move around the map. I think it's more down to getting better at understanding where enemies will be and stuff like that, like what their spawn patterns are and stuff, not getting caught in a situation where you're standing in knee deep water with ferns and stuff all around you obscuring things, which is why I didn't see these enemies. But the other thing that the cycle does that's very different than Tarkov is, in Tarkov you matchmake. So you hit, I want to go to this area, this big map, matchmake for 2 minutes at most. I mean, it's usually like 30 seconds. And then it loads you in with like 12 people. And they can be any configuration of solos, duos, and squads. And then everybody does their shit. And if you stick around, and there's like a 45-minute timer. And if you're not extracted by the end of the 45-minute timer, you die. But like, if you find a good place to hide for 20 minutes, there's a good chance half the people will have done what they came to do and they'll be gone. The cycle has instances of, it's basically like a dedicated server is running for 6 hours. And when you drop, it's dropping you into one of these servers that's already running. So the state of it could be anything. It could be that there's 10 people that are camping spots on the map. It could be that there's 4 people that are running around doing objectives. Like, it's impossible to know because players are always coming and going. And while you're doing your stuff, more people will come into the map, which is very cool. I like that aspect of it a lot. But ultimately, I think like the game's going to live or die on how much depth it can put into its end game, because Tarkov has like practically an unlimited end game at this point. Like, it is just, there's just tons. I mean, you can play for thousands of hours. And one of my friends was saying, because Tarkov does wipes like quarterly where you have to start over. And one of my friends was saying that like you'd have to play it like a full-time job to actually do everything within a wipe, which works in its favor because it means there's always something to do. I don't know how the cycle is going to handle that, because it seems like it would be really fun to play for 100 hours or whatever to get all your reps up. But then I don't know where you go from there. And of course, for people like me and probably all of us, am I going to put more than that much time into the game? Am I going to even put that much time in the game? Who knows? But in order for it to maintain healthy player counts and stay alive, it needs to have people that are playing for hundreds of hours, because those are the people that end up keeping it going. So we'll see. It's a free to play game too. That's the other kind of cool thing. Tarkov costs money to buy, but the cycle is going to be supported, I guess, by skin shops. So
God, the term skin shops just sounds fucking awful.
I know.
Sounds like something we're gonna find in Inscription.
you so far from what I've seen, there's going to be weapon skins, and then you're also buying like you get to customize your character, but you're basically buying the like base template, or like you're buying a type of person, a vibe of person.
A vibe check, but
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that stuff goes. But yeah, it's interesting. You can register for the beta right now. I don't know how many they like. If you got in on the first day, they were like, "Oh yeah, just come on in. You'll get an invite within an hour." And then the next day, their servers completely like exploded.
That's
and
awesome.
So they were like, "We're not gonna be adding more people for a little bit."
That's really great though. Like that's a wonderful problem to have, because it means what they're making is compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's a shitty dude, but Pestily on YouTube is the person I watch for Tarkov guides, and he did a video. I like his content quite a bit. He did a video about the cycle that was not sponsored. He says up front, like, this was not a paid video, and he said he thinks it's like as good but different than Tarkov in most ways, and he's really excited for to have both of those games kind of competing against each other. Who knows if it'll last, but the one thing I'll say is, like, the beta is open for another week and a half, and then it's closing, I guess, until 2022 when it comes out. So it's not going to be available to play too much longer in its current form, but supposedly will be out hopefully early next year. And I think it's if you're interested in this kind of game and want something that's a little more straightforward in in its onboarding and teaching you how to play and stuff. I think this is a good one to look at. It's because its mechanics are good. The shooting isn't quite as good as Tarkov, but it's solid, and the map is cool. It has really good scaling visuals. If you just so like it'll auto detect settings, and it'll say up front, like even if you change it and then relaunch the game, it's like, can we please auto detect your settings for you? And it looks really good. It uses DLSS and stuff. It'll like figure its shit out, and it looks great for me, and is still running at like 120 frames a second. Whereas when I would like manually set my settings, I was capping out around 55, and it didn't look that much better. So that part's kind of cool. So keep your eye out for it. Check it out if you're interested in that style of game, or if you want to get into it.
That's the Cycle Frontier.
Yeah. And oh, sorry, you got a 6 seg.
Oh
The
God!
6 seg. I don't
never.
Well, I think we're gonna travel over to the skin shop.
There's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a skin shop in this game. The last thing, even briefer, that I checked out, I've been watching for this game. It's been on a couple of, I think it was on a Nintendo Direct actually, or maybe it was a Wholesome Game Show. It was a Wholesome Game Showcase, not the Nintendo Direct. This game's called Book of Travels. It just came out in early access. They're calling it Chapter 0.
Right.
I've been pretty excited about it because it's really unique and weird. They're calling it a TMO, like a tiny multiplayer TMO RPG, tiny multiplayer online RPG, in that it's like kind of an MMO, but it's heavily instanced so that you never see more than another player or two, and there's no text chat. So to communicate with other players, you have to like use this little bank of emoticon kind of things, little speech bubble things that pop up that are like,
it's like Journey.
Yeah, Journey is a really good comparison. You can form parties and stuff and like go to do quests together, but yeah, it doesn't have any kind of text chat or anything. And I didn't play very much of it because it's a very methodical, very slow game. Moving around the world is very slow. It's a sort of a side-scrolling game. Side-scrolling is not really the right way to put it either, but it's like you're looking at the world from a sort of head-on perspective, and your character in it, and you're clicking around the environment to move your character. And sometimes you're clicking like in the background, and the character is sort of running into the background, and the camera will shift to a bit of an isometric perspective. But it's a very unique and sort of strange character or camera perspective that shifts throughout the game. It is utterly gorgeous. Like the
just like you
environments. Well, thank you. It's prettier than I am. The environments are
doubt that.
really
Impossible.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
they have a like a kind of watercolor's the wrong way to put it, but you just have to see it. It's a very like flowing art style,
painterly almost.
Yeah, painterly is a good way to describe it. And the characters are very cool looking. They're very like similarly very kind of abstract almost. And character creation in this game is very interesting because it's basically really trying to lean on more tabletop RPG elements of like your character's skills are less. There is combat, but it's less focused on combat than most games. I haven't even gotten into a fight in the hour or so that I've played. And it's just a lot of exploring, talking to characters. You have to really have a notebook next to you because by design, you'll talk to a character and they'll be like, oh, there's a weird cave that's out on, you got to go up this road and then you got to take a left when you get to this big rock. And then you have to curve north once the trees start to get heavy. And then you'll find a cave another like half mile up the road from there. And they'll tell you this. And it's like, you better write that shit down because it's not going on your map. There's no quest log or anything that's telling you where to go, which I think is really fascinating. And they say in the like in the game like, hey, this is by design. Your character will have traits that are like they're kind of like feats in other games, and you pick 2 positive ones and 1 negative one. And one of the negative ones, what I chose, it hasn't been implemented yet into the build, but it's called Forgetful. And you can put map markers down manually and type in what they're for. And with the Forgetful trait, your text on your map markers sometimes will just disappear because you've like forgotten what you wrote down for. So it's that kind of game where it's very much asking you to play it on its terms and be and come to it with like a desire to explore and kind of slowly uncover things about the world and develop your character. And I think it's really has the potential to be really, really cool, but it's definitely thin in terms of its content right now, and it's missing a lot of features. So it's like $30. I don't know if I would recommend jumping into it at this phase. The reason I picked it up was because I rarely get into early access games to play them and see how they develop. Usually I'm just like excited for it and I want to play it and I can't wait. So I get the early access one and then I either burn out on it or I don't ever play it. And then eventually when it comes out, I play it. This is actually one that I wanted to get in at the ground floor and watch it develop because I'm so fascinated by the concept. And so I think if you're interested, it seems like it's beautiful and high quality, and I'm sure that they're going to make it into something really fascinating, but not necessarily a ton of gameplay there yet. I like went in a river at one point and my clothes got wet. And it was like, well, now your stamina's going to drop a lot faster because you're running around in wet clothes. And it was like, you could sit around by a fire. And I was like, there's no fire around here. And then I'm like, games, make one if you want, but who fucking knows how to do that? I don't know. So I don't know. It's that sort of very much stumble around and click on things and see what happens kind of game that I enjoy, but may not be for everyone just yet.
All right. Well, that's Book of Travels, Chapter 0, and a whole bunch of other games we talked about.
Yeah.
Now it's time. What?
Excuse you? The talk has been thick.
No, indeed. To 3 C's on this one.
Yeah.
And just like how our header in this Google Doc for this podcast has 4 W's on news, there's a bit of news this week. I don't know if we have to hit all of it.
When I described it in our group chat,
some interesting stuff.
It's like a lot of small to medium-sized news, nothing like really heavy.
There's no blockbuster like, oh my god, the industry has been shaken.
Yeah.
I don't know. That Battlefield briefing was pretty long.
Was it? I read it and like I didn't feel like it was that long.
Oh, I thought it was pretty long and deep for a this is what we learned in the beta. Yeah. It's like this is like 5,000 words. Maybe not that many. 2,000 or 3,000.
I read it while pooping, so you know.
Didn't we all?
I think I did too. So yeah,
I don't know your life. I
haven't watched any of the videos in it for obvious.
Yeah, reasons. I didn't watch. Yeah, who watches videos while they poop? That's weird.
It's not so bad if you have your AirPods on you, but
bathrooms get echoey, so you're right. You got to wear the AirPods, otherwise the audio is just all wild.
I dread the moment when someone walks by the bathroom, whether it's like my partner who I live with or at work, and someone's like, "Are they are those guns? What's going on in there?" Because I have absolutely walked by the bathroom at work, and there's been someone listening to music like. And it's just like, this is a really weird. I don't want to know anything about this door is like a monolithic barrier into a place that doesn't exist right now because there's another person in there. I don't want it to the things from that other universe to seep into mine.
What is the ultimate poop in music?
Poop in USA.
No, it's got to be something like P-Funk or something. or like some like
It's like
Earth, Wind, and
Parliament.
Fire, or like George
Funkadelic.
Clinton or something like that. Yeah.
All right, get some Bootsy Collins for your booty Collins.
Yeah, exactly. You need something with some good rhythm that's like upbeat and
I'm writing that down as a episode title: Bootsy Collins for your booty Collins.
Sure. Yeah.
For your booties Collins, I suppose.
Booty Collins, I think, is enough. But yeah. So yeah, Battlefield, DICE put out a big document, big blog post, what have you, detailing what they learned from the Battlefield 2042 beta and what they've changed, how the full release will differ from the beta, all that stuff. There's some interesting
That's
tidbits
cool.
in there.
Yeah.
Like they're not the first company to do this, and it's good that they're being open. Like, okay, here's what we learned, here's what we're changing. Like one of the big things is they're doubling the amount of tanks that are on the map, for at least for Orbital, which is the map in the beta. So in the beta there were like four tanks per side. Now there will be up to 8 tanks per side.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's cool. It's cool that there's more specialists. I didn't realize that I thought that was all of them, but there's like double. There's only 4 in the beta, and there's 10 in full game, which is cool.
Then they're adding more in season passes, which was known, but like 1 per season, I think. Some of the
specialist. There's some good progression stuff in there. I think there's also stuff like this game sounds like they should just push it to March and just say,
maybe
here's the room, do what you need, because like they talk about how the map might not be in the game for launch.
Yeah.
Well, so
weird.
Dude.
So it's what I got from that was it might not be in for the early access period, which is like a week early from launch, which is where you have to pay extra.
That means they're coming in hot.
That's what I mean, though. Yeah. Is if it's not in a week before the full launch of the game.
Let's say that is the case. That turns into a situation which we saw not a lot. We saw occasionally last gen where that game is going to be borderline unplayable. Like if you get a physical copy and do not get the day 0.
Yeah, it's an online game.
It's
so
also
no
Battlefield.
Anywhere.
That's more of a theoretical situation. But like,
I see what you mean, though. It is.
But like,
it sounds very hot, and it sounds like it is. Yeah. In some way, I mean, selfishly, I would rather it come out and be busted, and then they fix it over the next 6 months, so that I can play it while it's busted and at least have some fun with it. But I think from a business perspective and probably for the health of the game, it would make more sense for them to just delay this game another 3 months for them to figure out what they need to do. But I doubt that that's going to happen. It sounds like it's probably because it's EA's. I mean, it's got to come out.
What if they went, surprise, Battlefield's delayed, Titanfall 3, motherfuckers.
The thing, this is a great example of like, I just wish more companies, more big publishers would say, hey, early access, we're putting the game out, it's going to be in a purchasable beta state. Here's $5 off the price of the game, we can still make our profits on it this quarter, and we're saying up front, hey, this is a little broken. Like there's so many places where I think that would be really helpful in this case. I mean, I think even if Cyberpunk had come out and they had, I mean, that game had, that was a whole mess. But if they had said a month ahead of time, look, we don't want to delay it again. We really want to put it in your hands, but it's busted. Here, we're calling this early access. The conversation around that game would have been completely different.
Short, unrelated. I didn't put it in our news, but did you hear about the Cyberpunk news for the next gen?
No,
delayed to next year.
It got delayed to like Q2 next year, and then The Witcher next gen is also delayed like another 6 months beyond that.
What are they doing?
That's a bummer.
And anyways, not even barely worth talking about. But I agree with what you're saying. It would be cool to get big companies in the early access kind of wagon, but shareholders probably aren't gonna be pleased with that.
I think there's also, it's kind of a different sell to the audiences for those games, because maybe the Battlefield audience is like savvy.
I don't know. Fortnite
yeah.
said early access for like 3 years after it was
yeah,
like
yeah,
out.
but
But that was for
but they were
the
still like,
save
what
the
what
world
is
mode,
this
right?
game? Yeah,
No,
and
no. When you launched the battle royale,
well,
anytime you launched
Battle Royale
Fortnite,
2 was early
it
access
said early
or beta or
No,
whatever.
that's free to
Yeah.
play, so it's a different proposition
Yeah.
and asking people to spend
Yeah.
money
Gotcha.
on it. But still,
And that was weird because that whole
enough.
thing was very odd and bizarre, but with calling it free to play or
Yeah.
early access or whatever it was they called it. But with like Sony it being very selective with their like, oh, it's early access on this game or whatever, and
yeah,
how will the audience respond to that? And if you say it's early access, how many people go, oh, I'll get it later, and then never pick it up? And you're always going to have some of that, but
yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it is an interesting idea, and more companies should try to embrace
sure.
that idea and normalize it.
And if this
100%.
game comes out in 2 weeks and it's a busted mess, I don't know if DICE can take another one of those, because people still think that Battlefront 2 is bad, even though Battlefront 2 is like arguably the best Star Wars game ever made at this point. Like, people don't know the journey that game went on because the press only covered the part where it was broken. Nobody covered the years of work they put into it to make it fucking amazing now.
Things move on.
Right. And so I think if Battlefield 2042 comes out and it's a mess, the story is going to be, is this the end of Battlefield? And that's the last you're going to hear about it from large outlets. And it's going to put that game in a rough position for the future. But maybe that doesn't matter, because also Battlefront 2 had a vibrant community that I think is still playing it because they stuck around and did pay attention. So who knows? Maybe it's fine.
It's got stiff competition with Call of Duty and Halo, both coming out this year, like on either side of it. Or
I think those are both going to be pretty disappointing.
Call of Duty. When is Call of Duty out?
It's November.
It's
same
in
time frame.
it's like in like 2. I think it's in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's before Battlefield.
Okay. Yeah.
And I played the beta of that game. It was fine. It's more like it's better than Cold War for sure. I think.
Well, don't worry, because you'll have the full Call of Duty experience when it comes out, because it's going to be full of cheaters, because that kernel level driver got leaked.
I know
the cheaters have a heads
other
up on what to make.
But also, I don't know. I played Vanguard for like a few hours in the beta at first and was like, oh, this is great. It feels more like Modern Warfare. I'm going to totally pick this up. And then I over the course of the weekend, I played a bunch more of it to try to get to level 20, which I did, to get their like special gun you got for getting to level 20 when the game comes out. And it's like a cool gun skin. And I ended up playing like 10 hours of that beta, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm done. I don't know if I need to play this on release or not, actually, because it's fine. I don't know. I'm definitely still much more excited for Battlefield. I will be in the early access period because I bought the "you're a stupid idiot" version of that game.
So while we were talking about Call of Duty, it reminded me of a headline I saw.
It's called these quick hits.
GamesIndustry.biz, I think, was doing an interview, or they're pulling this from, I don't know where they're pulling this from, but this quote is from the chief marketing officer at Activision Blizzard. Call of Duty Vanguard captures the epic intimacy of World War II in an incredibly immersive manner.
Boy,
fuck, this sounds like they've been listening to Munch Squad.
Battlefield onesie, baby.
God, the Battlefield onesie, I forgot about that.
It's Sledgehammer, right? It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not just really. Yeah. So like, I think Sledgehammer sounds like they have a very cool team of people working on the game. Like World War II has never actually been done particularly well. Like there's games that have been. There are great World War II shooters that have great campaigns from a gameplay perspective and from a like this is like a movie perspective, but no game has actually like really accurately or gotten to the core of like what that conflict was and what it was like for people that were experiencing it. I don't think we should necessarily. So I think those kinds of statements are really tone deaf and
Mhm.
not, especially considering that the campaign for this game is apparently about the Russian invasion of Berlin, which was one of the most horrific periods of time in the war, at least in Europe. So I
Yeah.
don't think it needs to. I don't know that I need to know about the epic intimacy from the first person perspective of someone.
You don't want to be down in a foxhole with your homies, cuddled up, kissing your butts goodbye.
I don't think that's so much what will be if they want to portray it accurately, which they won't. But an accurate portrayal of that period of the war would not be the intimacy of your friends in a foxhole.
Mhm.
It's more the horrors inflicted on civilians from
Sure.
both sides of the conflict, which don't need to be discussed in a game, in my opinion. Or not in a Call of Duty game. Let's put it that way.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
This War of Mine is probably a more similar look, a more accurate look at what that's like.
Well, from one war to another, God of War 2018 coming to PC.
Yeah,
Boy.
Sure.
Boy.
the more distance I was just talking to a coworker about this. The more distance I get from that game, the more I'm like,
It's a
the
good
axe
game.
throw is good. That's
I
good to play for sure.
I enjoyed the
Sindri and
journey.
Brock.
I don't need to go back to it, but
I think
I'll play
it's-
that next one.
I think it's really good for people who have never had a PlayStation and have had no desire to get a PlayStation.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I think it's great for these games to come to PC. Period. Like full
Yeah.
stop. That's
Yeah.
games coming from Microsoft's putting their games on PC. Sony should also put all of their games on PC. Nintendo
So-
should put all of their games on PC.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
just the PC is a
So I can
platform that anybody can
use a
access. And-
Decent fucking controller. God.
Yeah,
I just need to get an 8-bit-do like USB adapter for my fucking Switch or something.
I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to the next wave of God of War is the best piece of media that human hands
Sure.
have ever
Yeah.
gently and lovingly crafted that we got the first time around and continue to get when IGN puts out fucking reader polls. That game is suggesting that game is the best game of all time is like a jokerification moment for me. That is
It's a good game.
Sure.
sure it is. Yeah.
Maybe one of the best that year. We thought it was at the time.
I don't on reflection necessarily think it's maybe a top 10 or
We made a mistake, and
I think we
I knew
did.
at the time we were making a mistake, but I think Pat was the only other person who had touched Yakuza 6, and
I don't remember if I agreed that it should have been number one. I certainly do now if I didn't then.
Yeah,
what,
well,
Yakuza?
Yeah. Definitely I'm happy to be put on record stating I think Yakuza 6 is a better video game than God of War.
Still think
But
finally, vindication.
The Missing should have been higher.
I think The Missing is a better game than God of War.
That's an interesting take. I don't know if I agree with. I can be with
the
you
gameplay
there.
in God of War
but-
again the
yeah.
gameplay is very good in God of War. It's very solid. The visuals are very solid. I think
You know what,
I-
Pat?
I would say The Missing is more important than God of War.
which to me is what I care about
Yeah.
anyway.
And
as we
Sure,
know.
sure. That's
You
sort
know-
of valid.
Even though I don't like it, I think Oberdin would have been a better pick.
Obviously that was
Anyways.
that was my game of the year that year, so obviously I agree with.
I still don't like it, but
But when we talk about
Anyways.
Oberdin and the reasons you don't like it, I think that's an interesting conversation. To me, God of War is very much like it's hard
that
for me
axe
to
throw sure is good.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is like I think the boss fights in that game at the moment are like astonishing in their scale, but when you actually look at the mechanical,
Yeah.
like what you do in those boss fights, they're pretty fucking boring. And the axe throw is good, but by the 1,000th
yeah,
draw gear that you kill, like what's the point anymore? It's just I think that game is very good in the moment when you play it, and I think just don't think about it. What I told my coworker who was excited to play it on PC, it was like, just don't think too hard while you play it, because
Yep.
I think that's just go, man, this feels good to play, and stop there. Because if you start to examine like the story and the depth of the characters at all too, it is like
fucking kid. I hated him at the time too. his
best-
whole
yeah.
his whole shithead fucking.
We talked about it
arc.
recently, but that's the best part of that game because it actually makes you feel something. The rest of it is like
Yeah.
dipping your pinky in a petri dish in terms of depth. Like it's just like nothing there.
Driving that boat had its moment. Anyway, we don't have to go on.
No, I know we don't
talk
have to
about
relive
God
it.
of
Well,
War,
so I'm
but
sure we'll talk about it again.
If someone hasn't played God of War, I think they should play it.
Yeah.
It's worth playing, and if that is on PC with like apparently it's going to have DLSS and it's done by Sony Santa Monica themselves, sure, it's probably going to be a good version of it.
And
But
for what it's worth, based on the expansion of the writing team that they have made there,
what with
I
Lana
am-
Pierces and such.
yeah, I am like, thank God there is a woman working on the next one.
Oh yeah.
I am interested to see if the story is better in the next one.
Yeah, they did not treat. Oh God, what's her name? The
Freya?
lady Freya. Yeah, they really fucked Freya's character over.
That's
They call it don't they call her something else for like half the game?
yeah, because
Maybe
it's
not.
like, oh, they don't want you to like.
Yeah,
It's the game
to
wink.
clue
This
into
is
it.
This is the problem. It's the game going, this is Freya, but won't it be cool later when we actually use her name? And I'm just like, that's like, fuck
But
off.
it's like difficult because it's like in the Marvel stuff or Star Wars or anything where there are people who are heavily invested, people who know Norse mythology versus people who don't, like they're going to have that reaction, whereas the people who don't know Norse mythology are going to go, whoa, that's great. Oh, what, that's who that is. Oh,
But
my
they don't have the context for who she is anyway if they don't know Norse mythology.
they get like the story, like the context from the story of, oh, this is how this character relates to that character as the game presents it. And
think about the
it's
thing.
like a thing with like the MCU and like the characters who show up and they say a name, they say like, oh, Reed Richards, and you're like, oh shit, Reed Richards, and then other people are like, what the fuck is a Reed Richards?
Yeah, but think about like how hyped people were with that post-credit scene in God of War, where they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be Thor," and then like marketing came out and there was like, "Here's Thor, and he's thick," and everybody was pissed. Like,
I'm like,
that's
finally something interesting from this game.
Yeah. I thought it was awesome, and like as soon as I started that game, I was like, I wonder when Tweer's gonna show up, or Tyr, however you want to pronounce it.
And then he's in there.
Tweer is the traditional, and now he's in it. I'm like, fuck yeah! Like if you have familiarity with Norse mythology, they do cool stuff. They make some interesting references, but
but they also have to, they're also writing for an audience that mostly knows very little, or the extent of their knowledge is the MCU.
Yeah, I just wish Freya. We can move on from this if we want, but I wish Freya had her traditional depiction of the chariot that's pulled by cats. That would have been pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, I just wish that
could be in this next game.
Hopefully.
I wish that if they were gonna, they could just have a little more depth to the story itself. Like an MCU movie, you watch for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah,
this is like a 40-hour long video game, and
no, definitely.
Like you could cut 25 hours of it, and I don't think you would be missing anything. Is the real issue.
Yeah,
the issue is just it's a mass market media thing, so it's gonna be.
I have similar problems with every video game that Sony has put out in like the latter half of the PS4 era on, probably reaching back further than that.
Yeah,
so
totally fair.
I would level similar complaints along with other different ones, but at stuff like Last of Us and Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and a lot of this stuff. So
Ratchet and Clank coming for you next.
No, perfect. Ratchet and Clank.
No, that's
good.
Perfect.
I know.
Perfect. I didn't finish it, so I don't know if I'd say it's perfect.
No, it is very good. Like
it doesn't suffer from the same issues, I don't think.
Yeah,
but it's not one of Sony's house games.
At least since like the PS3 games, I'd say all those games have been super solid. And people take issue with the 2016.
Yeah, Spider-Man's generally pretty good too.
But yeah.
Anyway, we should burn through these so Alex can be free of this.
Yeah, I gotta go soon. Unfortunately.
Concerned Ape, developer of Stardew Valley, has announced their next game after they did like their weird like Stardew 2.0 patch like earlier this year. Was that
I
last
wanna
year? I don't
play
know.
it.
Was that earlier this year? Holy crap!
Was, yeah.
I don't know.
God,
It
time
was at
is an
some
illusion.
point. Yeah. But yeah, so it's called Haunted Chocolatier.
Yeah,
Sick.
it looks good.
All right.
I was kind of anticipating Allison to be here to talk about this one because it seemed like very up her alley, and yeah, it's cool. It seems like it's more combat focused, which take it or leave it. I don't know. The combat in Stardew was never good, so hopefully that's been improved.
Mhm.
And like, there's like decision trees and like conversation trees, so you can have different things that happen, which is really cool. And yeah, to me, it looked like it looks like Stardew. Like straight up, there's a lot of recycled assets. You're not going to You're not going to confuse this with, like, this is the exact same style. You're not going to be, thinking something else. But anyways, it kind of reminds me of Racketeer in a lot of ways, and Racketeer was a fucking awesome game. I don't know if y'all have played it, but
No, but
it's extremely good.
The
Maybe
Dave
someday.
Lang Connect game.
No, that game is also good, but that's just Boom Blocks and Angry Birds. Racketeer was like you play the shop in an RPG.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really good.
Okay.
So.
Anyways. So yeah, it says that the developer says don't expect the game anytime soon. It'll be ready when it's ready. So good for them making a new game. Next up, quick hit. Bungie is going to be charging extra for dungeons in Destiny going forward, which I missed this. In the past,
Yeah.
dungeons have been part of expansions, but I guess they're going to be in like a higher tier of pass or like expansion.
I appreciate that Bungie is a talented developer with people, and it's like I want them to do what they need to do to make sure that people employed there are like making good money and have great benefits and good work-life balance and stuff. So I say this with that in mind. There's not that much in the expansions without the dungeons. Like you're getting like a 4-hour campaign. I mean, if you look at like Beyond Light, it's like a 4-hour campaign and a raid, and then like a bunch of very grindy stuff that you can do to get certain weapons and upgrades. Like it seems like their content is just so thin already that like paywalling another part of it around a separate paywall is very odd to me.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
The thing, one of the kind of discourses I saw around it, because I don't follow Destiny very closely and I don't play it, so whatever. But the thing that I found interesting surrounding it is the total mess and confusing just nightmare it is to even figure out how to start. Like if someone wanted to start Destiny now, like what do you do? And then like it's
basically and it's
it's like do you get
here's a billion different places you can go.
Like are you getting a like basically it seems like they're raising an annual subscription price for Destiny with this, like from $60 from an annual expansion to now $80 for an annual expansion.
I think the expansions I don't think they're 60, but yeah.
But it seems like what they're doing, and
to get the full, you have to get the deluxe edition to get all the dungeons
stuff. Yeah. But the other thing I saw that people were talking about is that, like, remember when people were blaming Activision for all the monetization, and like they kind of painted Bungie as the good guys and like the victim of Activision's greed, but it's like this is kind of the same thing that's still going.
Yeah.
And now there's like different, like before they're in very different situation where it's like Activision forcing monetization on them and certain things. Then they get, they make that change to free to play and like being on their own. They have to come up with a new revenue stream, and like that stuff changes. So like that stuff is all, this stuff, when Activision, or when they were still under Activision, there was some like really obnoxious stuff in like set up that way, with like even like shaders where like limited use.
Oh yeah.
And you could only get them out of like
I guess
randomly. So that
ultimately,
like stuff like that really sucked. But
asking for like $80, which is the cost of the deluxe edition of the expansion, I think it's 40 or 80. Asking for $80 for a full year of content, which I believe the deluxe edition includes, or maybe it only includes the first.
It should include the deluxe edition. Should include the full year. No, it's 100 for the. Oh no, that's the plus the Bungie 30th anniversary bundle. I don't know what that is.
Another thing. That's another thing you can buy that gives you access to some content and stuff that's coming in December.
Okay.
But even if they said $100 for a year of content, I don't think that's unreasonable for a game that you're going to spend hundreds of hours in.
If you're going to spend that time in it, yeah.
And if it has that depth of content, but I go back to like just charge a fucking subscription for your MMOs. Sure. Like I understand that people flinch at that and it's hard to do now, but like the fact, like one thing that I will say that is so good about WoW and Final Fantasy as well. You pay $15 a month for WoW, you can do anything in the game. There are a few cosmetics that you can buy outside of that from their shop. But in terms of the gameplay and 90% of the cosmetic content in that game, you know that all you have to do is plop down the subscription fee and then buy an expansion occasionally every couple years, maybe. And when they do expansions, they're $40, and any higher tiered cost that you buy it in is all going to be for cosmetics. And the fact that that's simplicity is there for those games is just like, that's the value of the recurring subscription. I think like Elder Scrolls Online kind of does the best of both worlds, where you can do their weird, like, here's 1,000 different packs you can buy, or you can just give them a sub fee and then they give you everything for as long as you're subscribed, which is good too. I think that way you can do it a la carte or with the subscription. But the way Bungie's handling it just is very off-putting to me.
I'm wondering if they've got like metrics that show dungeons just are not popular for whatever reason, whether that's like,
I'm sure they're 3-person raids, so
whether that be, whatever reason is if it's the loot's not
just hard
compelling enough for people, they're hard, but they're not as hard as a raid, and that less people.
No, they are.
So theoretically
they're arguably as hard
but they're shorter. They don't require as many people, not as much cooperation, which
that's what makes them easy.
They're difficult, but so, and there's all these things there, and they were like a newer edition. Is there like a resource reason, like it's not worth their time as it currently is to develop these things? And so like we want to keep making them, but we need to get more money to like make it worthwhile, because like people aren't playing them. And so if you're going to pay this money, if you really want to play it, you got to give us more money. Or is it just they need another revenue stream to like, another reason to like milk people?
All that's fine, actually. I don't have a moral issue with any of it. It's just so confusing the way they're structuring it. Sure. That's the part. That's the issue to me.
I think
especially because the dungeons are often like tied into like the stories they're telling.
Yeah, it's how they're structuring it and also how they're communicating it. Like I think it's been a big issue with communication from them for years at this point.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know that any of us. I played a bunch of Destiny a couple months ago, and my group of, I think at least one person will hear me talking about this too. But we, as I suspected, it's been impossible to.
Oh yeah, you never got to raid, did you? Yeah,
we did it one time, and then didn't get past the first encounter.
Yeah,
and ever since then, I've every like week or so, it's come up, and I've been like, happy to raid, happy to set the time aside. Any Sunday, just tell me. And people are like, well, what if Sundays are hard, what if we did a Monday night? No, can't do Monday. Well, what about Wednesday? No, Wednesday not gonna work. And then it's like I just sit there and I'm like, we're never gonna fucking do this ever again.
The joy of being adults.
Yeah. Well, the joy of also Destiny being like third tier. Everyone would rather be in this group, everyone would rather be racing or probably playing like Rocket League or something like that. So, or Tarkov or whatever, Battlefield, whatever.
What if they put Ghost Racing back, Sparrow Racing back in Destiny? Would your
no? I would uninstall Destiny.
Do you think people have bumper stickers that say like, "I'd rather be playing Rocket League"? Ho ho.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Dead Mouse, almost assuredly.
There's probably an
on
NFT.
his Lamborghini.
There's probably an NFT of that, like and Epic will have it on the store.
And it looks like fucking shit, like all NFTs.
Yep. Yes. Yep. I don't want to get bogged down in the NFT shit.
No, I'll share it later. I didn't. Don't.
Yeah, no.
You don't care. You shouldn't care.
Yeah. Anyway, next up, speaking of bogged down in the shit, Blizzard Activision has changed the name of Overwatch character McCree to Cole Cassidy because the McCree was named after a former employee at Blizzard who was accused of
and dismissed
harassment and yes, dismissed
from the
employee.
company, I should say.
I think it's good, but like as Alex editorialized here, it doesn't say anything about what's going on internally meaningfully. I do think though it's worth saying that this sort of change is good. Like this generally with these sorts of things, like the way that games sometimes. If we can change like balance in games, we should also be able to change this sort of stuff. So, yeah,
I think it's very performative, but I think from
100%.
what I've read, it was also one of the requests of some of the activist employee groups that were with like internal to Blizzard. So, in that sense, it is positive that they're actually listening to those groups, and hopefully that means they will continue listening to them and make other structural changes rather than just continuing to change names and swap out art in WoW and remove NPCs and like that stuff. That stuff.
It's just such a nothing gesture.
I don't know. I don't think I'm not that cynical about it.
It's meaningful. It's
less important than actual structural change at the company by a long shot.
It's easy and it's very much like, see, we did something. Like, get off our back.
Like, from a programming point of view, they changed one string.
No, I know it's it's a simple change. But I still think that it's I can't imagine being put in that situation. But if I had to work on a character whose name was somebody that I knew was a piece of shit every single day, I would feel much worse about doing that work.
Absolutely.
So I think it's still worth and I think so often
worthwhile doing. Yes.
Yeah, I think so often people like with video games, it's just like I think about all the movies to me that are ruined by total piece of shit people being in them, and how great would it be if we could just like
do a Zack Snyder and just else. CGI Tig Notaro instead.
Exactly. So some of that stuff, I think, given that we can change games, I think that should be it'd be one thing if there was some deep art reason why the character needed to be named McCree, but who fucking cares? Also, who cares about Overwatch at this point anyway? No offense to Overwatch fans out there. I am an Overwatch fan historically, and boy howdy is that series dead to me.
Absolutely.
Not even for any of these reasons. Like I'm not somebody who
when Jeff Kaplan left, it was
clearly I'm not going to cross any picket lines, but I'm also not necessarily like actively participating in a boycott of their products. I want to see structural change at the company, and we'll continue to like support the employees demanding it in whatever way they ask. But like I would play Overwatch 2 unless they were specifically asking people not to. But I think Overwatch 2 is like, if it ever comes out, it's like whatever. Anyway.
All right, and this one's bullshit. Like, who get fucking sources claim new Splinter Cell may be in development at Ubisoft.
It do be a Saturday.
Yeah, like whatever. Like I'm just fucking over it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the headlines. I'm sick of the rumors. I'm fucking sick of it. The Splinter Cell, Bloodborne, Silent Hill. Just fucking get out of here.
Exactly. Thank you. We've arrived at the same place. Let's stop doing the podcast. I'm joking.
It's just fucking. The same.
I'm totally with
same
you.
Fucking
I don't give a shit
rumors
anymore.
for
This
fucking
stuff.
years.
This is-
How many goddamn years have they been going? Ubisoft's got a new
Well,
Splinter Cell game.
And you know that the reason that the rumors it's so boring and mundane. I'm sure that all this time there has been teams going, let's fuck around with the Splinter Cell prototype. It's still not very good, whatever. And then somebody in a Slack message, somebody sees that there were a couple people doing a Splinter Cell technical test and on the build that's been around for years, and then that filtered through to somebody's friend at a bar, and then that person talked to a reporter, and they're like, oh shit, Splinter Cell game in development. And it's just like, yeah, they have. I am sure that that people at Sony have talked to From about Bloodborne PC port. I'm sure it's happened. It just hasn't got off the ground. Same thing true with Silent Hill, just hasn't got off the ground. Like, all of this stuff is in development. It always is rotating around. Will it ever come out? Who knows? The
latest rumor,
make a siphon filter.
there is the only interesting thing about that Bloodborne stuff is that maybe Bluepoint is making Bloodborne 2.
Weird. That would be more interesting.
So
all these rumors are
it's
like Grand Theft Auto 6 is for sure in development. Like Fallout 5 is for sure in development. Like guarantee you there are people, whether they're on a marketing team or a writing team or a technical team, talking about what they're going to do for that game sometime in the future over lunch. Like
making concept art,
these games are always in development, and we don't need to report on rumors about them, because if they ever come out, it'll be in like 5 to 10 years. So who cares?
Next up, this is a new one that I did not know. Europeans can't buy Dying Light on Switch because it's banned in Germany, and Germany is where the eShop is registered in Europe. So is this like EU? Like, is the UK good to buy?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I didn't look too deep into that.
Okay. So what is it like? Germany has some pretty strict rules about what you can and can't show. Like blood and like gore can be.
It has to do with some of the narrative content, I think.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what it is, but there's like some specific allusions to like fascist parties in Germany or something like that. I want to say,
really,
like a side quest or something. It's weird. It's a very weird reason. I remember when it was banned in Germany, it was like, seriously, this is why it's banned? I don't believe it was for excessive blood and gore, but I could be wrong. I could be misremembering.
I'm trying to see if I can just grok it from a really quick reading, but I don't see it.
This is like a streaming version, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I don't
think that
is my light.
Let me tell you games I would not fucking want to play on Switch.
This is weird.
It seems like in Germany it's too much blood and gore. It wasn't about the fascist shit. It's
okay.
Yeah. Germany and Australia can be pretty uptight about games they allow.
Dying Light is not that bad, in my opinion.
Not that bad. No.
I mean, it's a zombie game, but it's
there's blood and gore, but there are definitely worse games out there in terms of that stuff. But I don't know what games are not available in Germany.
I guess.
Like, I think
Dying Light's not available. I can't imagine a mature rated game that would fly.
Like on the PS1, like Resident Evil was supposed to be banned until they changed the blood to like green or something.
The Resident Evil more recent, like RE2 remake, is way gorier than Dying Light.
100%. But when you lift that guy's head up at like that first hallway and his like all spiralized.
Yeah, and like when the guy's guts are hanging out from it's caught in the door. That stuff rules. But it's
real gross stuff at the beginning of that game.
I should play that on PC this holiday.
You should.
You should.
Hot tip: Hot tip: if you play at 120 frames per second, the knife is the most powerful weapon in that game because its damage is tied to frame rate.
And I
Fuck.
would, and that's very funny.
That's amazing.
Yep. So the speedrun strat for like all the bosses is just run up, look at the ground, and slice over and over until the boss dies.
Oh,
extremely
that's
funny.
so good.
Yep. It's very good.
Elden Ring got delayed.
Yeah, like a week, a month.
A month,
How even
whatever.
a month?
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah. The big news is it's 3 days.
There's a tech-
It's delayed to 3 days after the new Destiny expansion. So,
And like right after Halo, or not Halo, Horizon. like-
oh yeah, yeah.
Horizon Forbidden
I
West.
care so much more about Elden Ring than any of those other things that
Sure,
I do
yeah.
not care. I will play.
It's the Breath of the Wild effect again on Horizon.
I know.
We'll see. We'll see which one is, but it's definitely going to be. There's going to be a lot of discourse in the industry about Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Yeah.
That's going to overshadow Horizon, 100%.
Maybe for Horizon's benefit.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And then there's going to be a technical test for Elden Ring in November.
I'm signed up.
Which they
I hope I
announced.
get in.
Oh, I should sign up for that if I still can.
It's
But-
funny because they ask you like, what From Software games have you played? Not finished, but played. And I was like,
Mhm.
wow, I can check every single one of these boxes. It's like
Kingsfield.
Oh, was-
hardcore.
Was Cookies and Cream there?
No, it's
Was
not every one of their games.
3D dot game
It
heroes?
was like Dark Souls 2 and 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Armored Core, and then the fun one was like Armored Core. Which one was it? There was. It wasn't
was
For
Kingsfield
Answer.
there?
No, there was no Kingsfield. It was one of the Armored Core games that's like Armored Core Horn's Call or some weird name, and I was like, oh yeah, I have played that.
Of course you
'cause
have.
Armored Core rips.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Armored Core 4 Answer came out
It
for
was
the
Verdict
PlayStation
Day.
3 and 360.
It was Verdict Day. Verdict Day was the one they asked about, which is the most
Ah.
recent Armored Core game,
Gotcha.
I think.
There was also
So-
Last Raven and Formula Front and Nine Breaker.
Yep.
And Nexus. Anyways.
God, Armored Core rules. They should make another Armored Core game after they do this.
What if Elden Ring is an Armored Core game in
It's not. We know
disguise?
it's not. We've seen
What?
the trailer.
What if
Halfway
there's-
through,
Yeah,
that horse
what if-
becomes a mech.
Yeah, what if it pulls
Whatever, man.
oh, I was gonna spoil a game.
Metal Gear Solid 2.
No, well, no, but a game that Pat has actually been playing, so I'm not gonna spoil it. I can text you
Oh.
what it is, Andre, but
Oh, it's a
Okay.
Final Fantasy thing. Okay.
no, it isn't.
What? I don't know what other game I'm playing that would stalker thing.
Give me a second. I'll send Andre the message so we can look at each other and no one in our listener base can know what we're talking about.
The Good
It's,
Life. It's the mech part of the Good Life where the cat turns into a mech.
there.
Okay.
I don't think it's that big of a spoiler, but if you don't know it's there, it can be a spoiler. Anyways,
see.
we can move
I
on.
didn't know that.
There you go. Hope you were planning on playing it.
Nope. It's never going to happen for me. Next up on our news story, finally, after years of teasing, years of development hell, the Uncharted movie has a trailer.
And
Could,
it's
Tom Holland.
could you please read the news
Marky Mark
line as
Wahlberg.
it is written?
That Uncharted trailer, I guess.
I guess if we want to talk about it.
boring. No, it doesn't. Just go watch it. Whatever. If you think it looks great, I'm happy for you.
What happened as I watched that trailer, I think it looks like Uncharted, and as I was like, okay, yeah, that is just Uncharted, that is Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3,
It is all of Uncharted,
greatest hits. And it's like, wait a second, this is the prequel.
but with Tom Holland.
It very much, how does the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Especially when it's shit as specific as a train falling off a cliff or a airplane or falling out of a cargo plane.
Exactly. Or but like it had me kind of reevaluating that entire series in my head. Like, yeah, like it's fine, but it's not that great, is it?
Very good.
No.
Like it's got the set pieces, but that's kind of all it's got going for it.
What, Uncharted as a
Shoot.
whole?
Yeah. And like,
Which
you know, I
was
like
never
Uncharted-
good.
Uncharted
Nathan
4
Drake
was
is fun,
good,
but
but
it's got good parts, yeah. But like that, I would say is the only one that really holds up at this point.
yeah.
And like
Anyways.
even then, like it's
Yeah.
but yeah, give it a watch if you want. I'm still waiting for that Borderlands movie trailer because what the hell?
Now we're talking. That movie I'm actually
Well,
interested in.
That's got Judi
That
Dench
cast
in it,
is-
doesn't it?
No, it's
I don't
Jamie
think
Lee
Judi
Curtis.
Dench.
Oh, sorry, it's Jamie Lee
Jamie
Curtis.
Lee
Sorry.
Curtis, Kate Blanchett, Jack Black,
That's what it was.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah,
Like,
that
it's
cast is
a
fire.
wild
man.
cast.
Imagine if Judi Dench was in it, though.
She'd do it. She's in some dumb movies.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah, why not?
like
What
James
what,
Bond.
what else you doing?
I
Got
don't.
him.
James Bond is not
Rap, rap.
dumb in the way that Borderlands is dumb.
No, you're right.
And that
Dumber.
particular,
Ah.
I think that particular James Bond movie is quite good. Not everyone agrees with me, but
Which one?
well, she's in a ton of them, but the one,
Yeah.
the Skyfall.
Okay. I could not tell you what happened in Skyfall, Spectre.
Ugh. When they open the garage and it's got the old Aston in it, and they play the old James Bond theme. Oof, what a moment!
Yeah, yeah, baby. that's my James Bond.
Oh, Mass Effect.
Yeah, my Commander Shepard.
It rules that the official account retweeted. Go look at the official Mass Effect account.
It's really funny
do
with
it.
those glasses and
So
the dialogue
funny.
options.
so much better than actual Mass Effect. It's a personal opinion, not the opinion of the Gaming Fix podcast as a whole.
Nope,
I
that
like
is
Mass Effect.
no, that is the official opinion of the Gaming Fix podcast. Is
I like
that
Austin
video
Powers
is
more
the
than Mass
ideal.
Effect.
Yeah, mhm.
But I like Austin Powers more than a lot of things, so
Yeah, that's
stiff competition.
Do we don't need to talk about this tech news. Like whatever, it's barely gaming related.
If you want to, you can, but yeah.
But the new computers, new phones may or may not play games well. Who knows? Probably play games better than the old computers, than the old phones. But I don't
They're
know.
doing
You
some cool
figure it
shit.
out.
Both of the tech news.
They put
from-
a notch on a computer.
Yeah, but I think people are making too big of a deal about it.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I think it's fine.
That-
Like,
no, I wonder
it
what
makes
it's
the
gonna
bezel
look like
tiny.
if I wonder what it's gonna look like if you like full screen a game. Is it gonna like just like make that part black?
It does.
Like, or is it gonna be like okay?
They showed some full screen video where it just ends at the bottom of that bar
Okay, that's good.
because it's
They
like a
thought it through.
16. I think I'd have to look it again, but I think it's a 16:10 aspect ratio with that. Then it just turns it to a 16:9 when.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's compelling to like. I've got an Intel MacBook Pro. I'm like, oh, what if I would like get that better battery life? But it's expensive.
Yeah, I ordered one.
Yeah, you've got like legitimate use for it.
Yeah.
I just I'd like better battery life and
Just
in
holding out
general
for-
less burning hot fire on my lap.
just holding out for the Steam Deck, baby.
Sure, yeah,
That's my next tech
that'll-
purchase.
Steam Deck these nuts.
Yep. There. Now we're
Got
fucking
'em.
talking
Now we're fucking.
Well,
and talking. We're talking and fucking, fucking
would
and
deck
talking.
would that imply? Because I always assume the term decking to mean punch. So does that
Yeah.
mean punching one's nuts with steam, as
Mhm.
in like the hot thing that comes
Oh.
off of water?
God.
It's steam powered punch, so it's like this.
Oh, even better.
And then it expels. I've got a YouTube video to send you.
no.
YouTube. Okay, that's not too bad. If it was a live leak video, I'd be much more concerned.
A World Star.
My Steam Deck reservation did not bump up to December, I'm very
Oh,
disappointed.
Have some people's been?
Yeah, apparently some people's
Let me look.
Q1 reservations have bumped up to December
Let me take a
because
look.
of people canceling, I'm sure.
Probably. Steam.
But mine's still
Deck.
Q1, so it could be worse. Might have been Q2. Maybe I bumped from Q2 to Q1.
I might have typed Steam Dick. No, Q1 for me.
Very excited. Very excited to spend $700 on that thing.
God, that is so expensive. God.
I mean, I'm
But,
buying
you know,
the most expensive one because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Same.
Well, but you know, you're a man of taste.
Yeah, I need that anti-glare screen for all
I
the
need
times.
that
So
exclusive virtual keyboard theme.
there's a real possibility that I could take that thing outside. So actually having the anti-glare screen matters to me.
Waiting for Mocha to take a shit, and you're just
Actually,
playing.
100%. That is the context that I am referring to. I've read a not insignificant amount of Dune standing in the courtyard waiting for my dog to take a shit.
Mhm. I need you to get back on reading the Cosmere books, but anyway,
I will. I've got
That's for personal chat.
yeah. If any, read some books, friends.
Yeah.
Dune,
Hey,
Dune,
books,
read,
they're good.
reading
I've been
Dune.
reading-
Dune is so fucking good.
I've been reading The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I didn't realize that book was so fucking
good.
Swedish.
It's a good book. That's a good book. I read some of
It's
that book.
extremely Swedish.
Yeah.
I've been seeing Dune memes. I don't know anything about Dune, and I feel like I'm having a stroke every time I read one.
You gotta, you
They're
would
not
love
words.
Dune. You would love Dune. Dune is like, it's so good. Yeah.
I saw like some weird shit in like the later books with like some like witches enslaving the galaxy with sex or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
I mean, I had never
Well.
finished the book, and I'm finishing for the first time now.
Mhm.
And I went from like, damn, this book's good, to like, his son should publish that concordance that he put together, which is typically a thing you only put out for like sacred biblical text and classic Greek and Latin philosophers. But like, goddamn, that's a good book. Only other classic I've read that has had the similar effect on me is Lord of the Rings, because it's just so good.
Okay.
Going to see the movie. It's 6 hours.
For a second, I thought you said it's 6 hours. And I was like, wait, what?
It will be by the end.
They beat the Snyder Cut?
No, well, yeah. When part 2 arrives, it'll be.
It'll be pretty much up there.
It is like it confirmed there's going to be a part 2. It's not like,
but apparently the title card for this movie is Dune Part 1. So.
Yeah, but
yeah,
So
it
they're
sounds like
hoping
it's.
for it.
Well, it sounds like they just can't say for sure because the ink hasn't been dotted. But Villeneuve has said that he's actively working on the sequel.
Yeah, like I'm sure he is. Just it's the studio, publishing.
Very
whatever.
mild spoiler for a 65-year-old or 60 whatever year old book. There's a big time jump that occurs after where the movie ends. It's not really a spoiler.
Let's do the time warp again.
But that's why they didn't just film the whole thing at once, because
so they're gonna wait like 15 years and then
well,
make
it's
sure
not
all
that
the
long a
actors
time
are
jump.
aged.
The time jump is
Timothée Chalamet up.
You wouldn't have to do much to the actors to age them.
Duncan,
for this
Idaho.
time jump. It's only a couple years, but anyway, sorry. That's the Dune minute. Go read the novel Dune.
I'm fucking anticipating books coming out in 2028. So
well, my real point in all that was I've gotten more enjoyment out of reading Dune than any of the video games I played this week, and it made me go, I should read books more.
Yeah.
I've spent like 2 evenings just sitting on the couch reading, and I was like, this is actually a valuable use of my time, and I should do this more often.
My girlfriend got mad at me when I got totally engrossed in the Stormlight Archive. She's like, "What the fuck?" Because I spent like 2 months just reading nonstop.
Yeah,
nerd.
Hell yeah. But that's gonna do it for this episode of the Gaming Fix podcast, episode 195 on October 23rd, 2021. I've been your host, Andre Cole, aka the Wet Gamer, aka your partner's favorite Halloween monster. You can find me on Twitch today when this episode is live. On Twitch, streaming Prey for Extra Life. I'm raising money for hospital in my hometown, Peace Health Sacred Heart. If you want to stop by my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/coleslaw, you can donate. Where tomorrow or on this next stream, I have to drink a chili tomato cup noodle soda.
Oh yeah.
Because we hit $307 out of on my way to 500 as my goal. So if you want to stop in, donate. If you don't have the time to stop in to the stream, you can head over to my Twitch, or not my Twitch, my Twitter, twitter.com/coolslaw, COOLSL4W, where you can find like a link to a pin tweet where I've got my donation link. Go ahead and donate to that. I'm partnered up with the Super GG Radio folks, and we're, I think we've got like close to $1,000 raised now. I don't know. Where's the team? I don't know where the team thing is. Anyway, yeah, it's good stuff. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays on Twitter.
Great. Alex?
Driving around, going places, doing stuff.
Okay.
We got a big fucking storm here, so it's affecting the island in particular.
Yeah, you're getting it today, right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to get it tomorrow. I've heard things like biggest storm in Seattle history.
Yeah. There was a container ship. Listeners,
did it get stuck in a canal?
No.
Is it disrupting supply lines?
Sadly,
Please, we have
not.
Strait here, not canals.
Yeah, it's true. I live on the Georgia Strait. But the this ship like almost toppled over and lost a shit ton of its cargo into the ocean, and like
100-mile-an-hour wind off the side. It's a storm.
Yeah, it's basically two storms converging.
It's like a hurricane or a typhoon,
which we do not usually get over here.
No.
So it's
it's
gonna be pretty fucked
in the time that I've lived here.
No,
yeah, that's wild.
So I'm gonna find me windsurfing.
Stay safe.
Yeah, I'll be staying wet, gamers.
Indeed. You can stay wet with all your podcast friends by going to fix.space or wherever fine podcasts are distributed. Thank you to Jeff Davis at Stranger Peace for our theme music. And our Super GG radio team for Extra Life has raised $1,397.
Nice.
Over halfway to our goal of 2,500.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. For the kids, baby. For the kids. Thanks for joining me, Alex. Pat.
Wait, does that mean that they hit their goal for the giveaway for the OLED?
No, the OLED is a stretch goal. If we hit a team goal of 5,000, then we'll give away. Yeah. So if you want to help us get to 5,000 and possibly win a Switch OLED, definitely head over to my Twitch or head over to my Twitter and find that donation link and donate. Yeah. If you don't want a Switch OLED, a $10 donation can get you entered to win a Stay Wet t-shirt from my merch store, which I'll send worldwide. I believe the Switch OLED is only for U.S. residents because shipping.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know about. I should figure that out. Canada, maybe. But
yeah,
I don't know. We'll make it work. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
People should listen to Super GG Radio to find out.
Yeah. In the meantime, stay wet, gamers.
You too.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll stay wet. Stay wet. Stay